Chapter 91 Tang Family's Heritage, 3 Ancestors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Luo Qingshan's cultivation breakthrough, although the strength has ushered in a surge, but at the same time, he finally calmed down in the past half-month. Again, it gradually started to fluctuate a bit. In his mind, the voice that should have disappeared sounded in his mind again. My hands are itchy, want to kill, want to see blood. He wanted to enjoy the fragrant bloody smell that filled the air after death. He wanted to see the last look of despair before death. He could hardly bear it any longer. Ancestor Changfeng, I feel like I can't control myself. Luo Qingshan's eyes gradually turned blood red, and the scarlet color filled the top of his head. At this time, it spurted out several times. It was like a pillar of scarlet blood rising into the sky. TSK Luo Changfeng looked at Luo Qingshan beside him, and saw his changes at this moment. He not only smacked his mouth, but also whispered to himself, after all, you still can't control your heart. It seems that Luo Qingshan, this little guy's cultivation level still cannot be broken through at will. After whispering words, Luo Changfeng stood up silently, heading towards Luo Qingshan, whose cultivation has reached the early stage of Zang-Refining beside him. Seeing Luo Changfeng gradually approaching, Luo Qingshan instinctively wanted to avoid it. However, under the suppression of absolute power, all Luo Qingshan's actions were like a video slowed down dozens of times, and Luo Changfeng's eyes snapped. In desperation, Luo Changfeng could only knock the little guy unconscious first. After that, he took out a white porcelain bottle from the storage bag. From the porcelain bottle, a yellow-level low-grade Jingxin pill was poured out. He stuffed it into the mouth of this little guy, Luo Qingshan. That should be enough, right? That with this thought in his mind, Luo Changfeng laid Luo Qingshan flatly on the ground. He himself returned to the stone pavilion. Silently he raised his head and looked at the bright crescent moon in the sky. At the same time, I felt the peace at this moment. The next day, early morning, the sky is not completely bright yet. There was a little mist surrounding the place. Luo Qingshan had already woken up from his coma at this time. My head hurts so much. Luo Qingshan frowned slightly and couldn't help but hummed twice. How do you feel now? Not far away, under the stone pavilion, Luo Changfeng's calm voice gradually sounded. Now. Luo Qingshan lowered his head slightly, thought for a moment and then responded, it seems to be much better now. Ancestor Changfeng, did I lose control of myself yesterday? Luo Changfeng nodded and whispered, after your cultivation breakthrough, the situation will be worse than I imagined, but fortunately, it can be controlled for the time being. When Luo Qingshan heard this, he sighed helplessly. After that, he found an open space on his own. He sat cross-legged and slowly closed his eyes. It seems that he wants to use this to calm his increasingly impetuous heart. Huaishui Town. Within the territory of the Luo family, Luo Ping is the current head of the Luo family. At this time, as usual, he was sitting quietly on the main seat handling various government affairs. It is located outside Huaishui Town, in the military camp. Inside what looks like the largest tent, the coach Luo Yong has reached the early stage of Zang refining. He was sitting on the armchair quite casually, squinting his eyes slightly. He listened to the big liar Tang in front of him keep talking about things. You mean, the Su family's caravan that raises the black jade unicorns will arrive in Huaishui County in 3 days? And the Su family's caravan will bring 50 brand new black jade unicorns to continue trading with the Tang family? Luo Yong asked in disbelief. That's about it. Tang Jian nodded confidently. Before, you said that the Tang family has a caravan with a large amount of food, and they only go out for trading. This kind of thing can be concluded through speculation in various aspects. But now you say that the Su family's caravan in Wanshan Mansion will arrive at Huaishui County in 3 days with 50 black jade unicorns. How do you expect me to believe this kind of thing? Is it possible that you can really count? Luo Yong looked at Tang Jian in front of him, his eyes narrowed slightly, and his eyes were filled with deep doubts. Tang Jian was indeed right once before. But this time the situation is completely different, and, no matter how he looks at it, this Tang Jian is just a monk in the late stage of bone refining. He is completely incomparable to the so-called ability to pinch and calculate. If a monk who practices blood training or is in the mortal realm says this, he can somewhat believe it. Brother Luo, you must believe me at this time. Think about it, when have I lied to you? Besides, there is no harm in Brother Luo if you choose to believe me. After Luo Yong heard this, he couldn't help but nodded silently and said, what you said does make some sense. If this is the case, then it doesn't matter if I believe you again. If no one from the Su family comes after 3 days, I will pretend that you never said these words. If the Su family really sends a caravan over, then I will truly believe what you said in the future. In a flash, time came 3 days later. It's just that Luo Yong and the others haven't waited for the arrival of the Su family's caravan. Then another incident happened that shocked the entire Huaishui County. Just in the early morning today, countless people are still sleeping. The Fengwentai, who was named the king of Huaishui, had the most powerful overall strength in Huaishui County. They actually sent more than 200,000 troops and launched a crazy attack on the Tang family. At first, the Tang family was caught off guard. The county seat and 2 towns were directly lost. Later, the Tang family reacted and carried out various defenses, and they were able to barely stabilize their pace. Since then, the Tang family's power has shrunk slightly. From the original 6 counties and 8 towns, it has become the current 5 counties and 6 towns. The power under Fengwentai, who was named the king of Huaishui, ushered in a wave of expansion. From the original 8 counties and 12 towns, it has become the current 9 counties and 14 towns. Under such circumstances, Huaishui King Fengwentai can be regarded as the real king in Huaishui County, whether it's the Qin family, the Tang family, or the weak and inconspicuous Luo family. They no longer have any ability to forcefully confront Fengwentai, Huaishui County, Tangjia City, in the land of the Tang family. In an extremely luxurious room, as the current head of the Tang family, Tang Huaiping is extremely fat. At this time, he had a gloomy face, sitting quietly on the main seat with some uneasiness. How is the situation now? Are you still attacking Fengwentai? After a moment of silence, Tang Huaiping asked in a low voice to the Tang family servant who was kneeling on one knee in front of him. Master, Huaishui King's side has temporarily stopped attacking. It seems that we are purging the forces in the newly acquired county and 2 towns. The Tang family servant who was kneeling on one knee lowered his head slightly and whispered. Fengwentai, Fengwentai, Fengwentai. Tang Huaiping once again frantically smashed everything within reach. However, after experiencing the previous reprimand from his ancestors, he did not continue to kill his servants at will. After a while, the Tang family servant left the room. At this time, Tang Huaiping was the only one left in the extremely luxurious room. My ancestors told me to hold my ground and wait for the opportunity. It's just that now that Fengwen Tower has started to attack my Tang family, how can I still hold on? When will the real time arrive? Tang Huaiping frowned slightly, thinking this in his heart. In Huaishui County, the Tang family's food reserves are indeed the largest among several forces. It can even be said that the king of Huaishui, the Qin family, and the Luo family, the combined food reserves of these forces may not reach 1/3 of the Tang family's food reserves, so, just drag it on. The Tang family's winning rate will gradually become greater and greater. However, there is a premise here, that is, the Tang family can always live in peace with several forces in Huaishui County. But what if war suddenly breaks out? Just like the Fengwen Tower, they suddenly came to the Tang family like this. Suddenly, he ate up a county town and 2 towns under his Tang family. If things go on like this, Fengwentai becomes more and more powerful. The Tang family's strength is getting weaker and weaker. In the end, even the Tang family's food reserves were much higher than those of other forces. The probability of the Tang family winning in Huaishui County will become lower and lower. In a blink of an eye, the time came to evening. At this time, the sun was setting. The afterglow of the setting sun shines on this land. While the temperature continues to drop, it also brings a different kind of beauty to this land. Master, the Su family's caravan is here. Tang family land, in the room where Tang Huaiping is. Just as Tang Huaiping was thinking about how to deal with Fengwentai, a Tang family servant suddenly jogged into the room. Su family caravan. Tang Huaiping narrowed his eyes slightly. After thinking for a moment, a look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Is it the Su family from Wanshan Mansion? The servant nodded and replied, yes. After the servant left, Tang Huaiping, who was sitting quietly on the main seat, couldn't help but stood up with excitement. People from the Su family did say it before, he needs to apply for some more Moyu Chilan credits. and then transport them to Huaishui County for another transaction with the Tang family, but at that time, Tang Huaiping just felt that this was probably a drunken joke, it couldn't be taken seriously. But what I didn't expect was that the people from the Su family actually came. The black jade unicorn from the previous transaction was just stolen by others, this time. The Moyu Qilan must never be snatched away from my Tang family by outsiders again. Thinking like this, Tang Huaiping walked silently out of the room. This time, he planned to invite an ancestor from the Zang-Refining Realm to come out of his clan, let the ancestor of Zang-Refining Realm stay near the black jade unicorn for a while, see if anyone dares to do something to his Tang family's things. The Tang family is one of the more established family forces in Huaishui County, although, in recent years, the Tang family was dubbed the Big Grain Merchant, but no matter what outsiders say, the Tang family's background is still quite good, although, it is not as profound as the most mysterious Qin family. Ancestor, that's roughly what happened. In the Tang family's territory, there is one of the most mysterious courtyards. At this time, there were 3 skinny old men, they all sat quietly under a stone pavilion, holding a cup of ice-cold tea in their hands, drinking silently. Do you want to invite me to come out? Among the 3 old men, one had a hideous scar on his face, he looks like a fierce old man with white hair. Suddenly he turned his head and whispered to Tang Huaiping. Tang Huaiping nodded slightly, looking a little reserved. There is no way, these 3 ancestors in front of me are all the heritage of the Tang family. Tang Huaiping could control the lives of the servants of the Tang family at will. But for these 3 ancestors in front of me, Tang Huaiping naturally didn't dare to mess around. Brother Tang Qian, what do you think? Among the 3 old men, one was wearing a brown robe and seemed to be relatively easy to get along with. Suddenly, he asked in a low voice to the old man among the 3 who had an expressionless face and closed his eyes. What Huaiping said makes some sense. Tang Qian nodded silently, then he opened his slightly cloudy eyes, looked at the old man next to him with a hideous scar on his face, and whispered, regarding this matter, you should go over and see if anyone is still watching our Tang family. It would be best if nothing happens. If so, something really happened during this period. As he spoke, a cold look flashed across Tang Qian's slightly cloudy eyes, then just go ahead and kill all the enemies who dare to covet my Tang family. Understood. The old man with a ferocious scar on his face grinned, and his body was suddenly filled with a feeling of being in the early stage of Zang refining. He stood up and gradually disappeared from everyone's sight, the leader of the Su family caravan, still the same one who came to Tangjaiqing to trade last time. Head of the Tang family, I have wasted a lot of effort in order to obtain these 50 black jade unicorns. Tangjaiqing, inside an extremely luxurious restaurant opened by the Tang family, the rather rough-looking leader of the Su family caravan, he was looking at Tang Huaiping in front of him silently. Brother, don't worry, I understand. After Tang Huaiping smiled slightly, the 2 entered the stage of drinking together again. Most of the people in Wanshan Mansion have a bold personality. Most things can often be settled over the wine table. As long as you can drink enough, you can easily win the favor of the people in Wanshan Mansion. Friend, I am still very satisfied with this transaction. Outside the restaurant, the leader of the Su family's caravan put his hand on Tang Huaiping's shoulder in a drunken manner. It seemed that there was no reason to keep a certain distance from Tang Huaiping because of his appearance. Whatever brother wants, I will give it to you tomorrow. Tonight, my Tang family has to prepare well. The Su family laughed and said, it's easy to talk, it's easy to talk. After a while, Tang Huaiping and the people from the Su family separated. The transaction of 50 black jade unicorns was also quite smooth. Although it's not the first time I've seen them, these black jade unicorns still make me feel a little shocked. In the Tang family city, outside the racecourse specially prepared by the Tang family for Mou Qilan, while Tang Huaiping looked at the horses in front of him, which looked like inky jade under the dark night, he couldn't help but sigh in a low voice. Are the protective powers of these black jade unicorns in place? After admiring the black jade unicorn for a while, Tang Huaiping suddenly asked in a low voice to the Tang family servant beside him. Don't worry, master, everything is ready. The grey-clothed servant beside Tang Huaiping whispered. Okay, that's the case, then I'm relieved. After Tang Huaiping nodded with satisfaction, he turned around and walked towards the direction of the Tang family. This time, to protect the 50 black jade unicorns, Tang Huaiping not only invited an ancestor of the Tang family who was in the early stage of Zang refining, he also prepared 3 bone refining perfectionists, 5 bone refining late-stage practitioners, and 10 practitioners ranging from early to mid-stage bone refining. As for the monks in the realm of skin refining, he also prepared more than 100 people. Tang Huaiping believes that with such a powerful defensive team, these 50 black jade unicorns will definitely not suddenly disappear without a trace from the Tang family city like last time. It was as if it had never appeared. As Tang Huaiping gradually moved away from the racecourse, those who used the invisibility charm had already sneaked into the Tang family city. The people of the Luo family who were hiding near the racecourse also appeared one after another at this time. "General, do you want to take action?" Next to Luo Yong, a deputy general looked at the 50 black jade unicorns in the racecourse, and he couldn't help but ask excitedly. Not in a hurry. As Luo Yong spoke, he looked around carefully around the racecourse. 3 bone refinings completed. 5 late stages of bone refining. A dozen monks ranging from early to mid-stage bone refining. And 100 or so monks in the skin refining realm. This defensive force is several times stronger than the previous one. Luo Yong whispered in his heart, and just when he wanted to say something to the deputy general beside him, a solemn look suddenly flashed in his eyes. A monk at the early stage of Zang refining. Luo Yong looked at the old man with a ferocious scar on his face. He seemed a bit ordinary, but in fact he possessed terrifying strength. After thinking for a moment, he whispered to the deputy general beside him, "The situation is not quite right. Let's withdraw first." With that said, Luo Yong directly activated an invisibility charm. He ran madly towards the outside of Tangjia city. Although the deputy general was a little confused about this, he still obeyed Luo Yong's order. With the servants who are loyal to the Luo family, or the generals, they all activated their invisibility charms and ran towards the outside of Tangjia city. Soon after, Luo Yong and the people he brought gathered outside Tangjaiqing. "General, why are you doing this time?" Next to Luo Yong, the deputy general hesitated for a moment, but in the end he couldn't hold back the doubts in his heart. He asked his general, "You know, that's the Moyu Qilin. One of the 3 most famous horses in the Gale dynasty. Wouldn't it be a pity if we just gave up? The situation this time is a little different from last time. Near the racecourse, there seems to be a mysterious being who is in the early stage of Zang refining and is guarding him. Although, relying on the special characteristics of the invisibility charm, it's not like I don't have the chance to seriously injure it, or even kill it. But there are always some risks in this matter. So, I'm going to go back and pick up some stuff and come back later." Chapter 92 The first Zang-Refining Realm monk to die in Huaishui County. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, early in the morning, the sky is still gray. Luo Yong had already returned to the Luo family, in the courtyard where ancestor Changfeng lived. "So, do you want 100 lightning charms? Using this to deal with the Tang family's early-stage Zang refining monk?" Luo Changfeng asked in a low voice. Luo Yong nodded respectfully. "Let's do this," Luo Changfeng said. He waved his hand and took out about 300 lightning strike charms from the storage bag and handed them to Luo Yong's hand. 100 lightning strike charms. Fu, although it is not a big problem to deal with a monk who is in the early stage of Zang refining, there is still some risk. If the number is increased to 300, let alone the early stage of organ refining, even some are in the middle stage of organ refining. It's not a problem if you want to kill it instantly. After communicating with Luo Changfeng and Luo Yong for a while, Luo Yong quickly left the yard after taking away 300 lightning charms. He brought enough practitioners with him and continued to rush towards the direction of Tangjia city. As for the invisibility charm, the quantity refined before was relatively large, and Luo Yong still had at least hundreds of them in his hands. It's enough for the time being. The Su family caravan, 50 brand new black jade unicorns, in the Luo family's land. In the courtyard, under the stone pavilion, Luo Changfeng looked at the direction that Luo Yong was leaving, and he couldn't help but narrowed his eyes slightly. If these 50 brand new black jade unicorns can successfully intercept who from the Tang family, it would be really cool. After all, Who cannot love something that is free of charge if there is no real business? As time flows, soon, Luo Yong brought more than 100 cultivators who were loyal to the Luo family. They sneaked into Tangjia City one after another. They approached the horse farm where 50 black jade unicorns were stored. At this time, it was late at night again, a bright crescent moon hung high in the sky, the surrounding temperature is slightly cold. What Luo Yong could see was that the Tang family practitioners near the racecourse were still guarding them silently, even the mysterious old man in the early stage of Zang-Refining. It is also located near this horse farm. Before, just to be on the safe side, Luo Yong did not take action directly, but this time, the situation is a little different. General, do you want to take action? Next to Luo Yong, the deputy general looked at the sky at this time and at the practitioners near the racecourse who looked tired and yawned. He hesitated for a moment, then asked in a low voice. Take action, leave no one behind, be sure to be quick and precise, and kill with one strike. Luo Yong said with a somewhat cold expression. The deputy general nodded silently and responded, yes. After that, Luo Yong and the more than 100 practitioners beside him began to use the power of qi and blood in their bodies. He activated the invisibility charm he carried with him and headed towards the practitioners near the Tang family horse farm, before those people from the Tang family could react. Tang family practitioners who were above the 9th level had already fallen to the ground. The bright red blood was flowing slowly, the strong smell of blood soon filled the air. The taste of blood? What happened? What's the situation? Near the racecourse, a small group of Tang family members smelled the smell of blood in the air. They quickly looked around, a look of vigilance gradually showing on their faces, but just when those people from the Tang family were planning to remind the people nearby to cheer up, a sharp, 100-forged steel knife appeared on the necks of those people. Just exert a little force and pull with one stroke. A huge gash appeared on the necks of those people. Red and hot blood suddenly splashed everywhere. Some of the Luo family monks who were in a state of invisibility appeared in the splattering blood because they couldn't avoid it. Problem occurs. Tangjia racecourse is a relatively remote place. One had a hideous scar on his face, an old man with white hair and a somewhat fierce appearance. At this time, he couldn't help but raise his head, looking towards the horse farm not far away. In his sight, the 50 black jade unicorns were still sitting quietly in the racecourse, looking extremely docile. However, those practitioners of the Tang family who were supposed to be guarding the racecourse this time, he couldn't see anyone. Something happened, something really happened this time. Someone attacked his Tang family late at night, but, who will do this? Can all the powerful forces of his Tang family be eliminated in an instant? The old man took 2 steps back and narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking silently in his heart, and just when he was planning to return to the Tang family first and inform his 2 more powerful brothers about this matter, a thunder and lightning with a radius of about 5 meters, a deep color, and filled with bursts of violent aura, it was heading towards his direction at an extremely terrifying speed. Fast, so fast, so fast. The old man raised his head, widened his eyes, and looked at the extremely dark thunder and lightning in the sky. His pupils couldn't help but shrink suddenly, that he wanted to move his body and avoid it. However, the speed of that lightning seemed to be a little too fast. He didn't have time to escape. Boom! In the end, an attack composed of 300 lightning strike talismans fell directly from the sky. It hit the old man's body with great precision. The old man's body was under the terrifying and extremely violent thunder and lightning. It immediately turned into ashes and dissipated into the void. It's like it never happened. Is this solved? Luo Yong looked at the bursts of ashes dispersed by the wind in the void. He lowered his head again and looked at the lightning strike talisman in his hand that also turned into ashes and slowly dissipated between heaven and earth. For a moment, he couldn't help but be stunned. His face couldn't help but twitch slightly at this moment. It wasn't until a long time later that Luo Yong came back to his senses. On his face, there was a slightly complicated expression. I never expected that the combined lethality of these 300 lightning talismans given to me by Patriarch Changfeng would be so terrifying. Just stacking 300 lightning strike talismans together can unleash such terrifying lethality. Then, if there are 500, or even 1,000, stacked together, what kind of lethality can it unleash? What kind of power can be unleashed by stacking 3,000 or even 5,000 lightning talismans together? When the time comes, let alone a monk in the Zang-Refining Realm. Even a blood-training monk who is above Zang-Refining should be able to deal with it, right? Even if it can't be solved on the spot, beat him until he is seriously injured and dying. This shouldn't be a big problem, right? After dealing with these people at the scene, next, Luo Yong needs to do, naturally, they quickly took these 50 black jade unicorns out of Tangjaiqing. The sooner this matter is dealt with, the better. In any case, this Tangjia city is the boundary of the Tangjia after all, if you stay here for a long time, not to mention this black jade unicorn. Even his own life would probably be thrown away directly here, the combined lethality of 300. Lightning talismans is indeed extremely terrifying, however, it caused a stir, it is also extremely shocking. Thunder struck out of thin air. Tangjaiqing, the land of the Tang family, in a room full of calligraphy and paintings, it looks like a jewel, even late at night, as the current head of the Tang family, Tang Huaiping, he was still sitting quietly on a special large armchair conscientiously, handling the government affairs within the family. However, when he noticed something abnormal, he suddenly raised his head and looked silently outside the room. Thunder falling out of thin air is not a good sign for the Tang family, which is in a troubled time. Someone is coming. Suddenly, Tang Huaiping shouted loudly. As Tang Huaiping's voice sounded, a servant of the Tang family dressed in grey quickly ran into the room. Housekeeper. The servant of the Tang family knelt on one knee, his head slightly lowered, and his face was full of awe. Did anything happen in the city? Tang Huaiping looked at the grey-clothed servant in front of him and asked aloud. Nothing happened for the time being, the grey-clothed servant replied tremblingly, and just when Tang Huaiping wanted to continue asking something, suddenly, there was a monk in black. He quickly broke into this room. It can be seen that the monk in black from the Tang family has a look of fear on his face, and his mood seems extremely uneasy. Master, something big happened. After entering the room, the monk in black from the Tang family spoke quickly. Tangjaiqing, near the racecourse. At this time, Tang Huaiping, the current head of the Tang family, with a silent face, he stood silently in the racecourse where blood was flowing everywhere, and the black jade unicorn was missing, and located behind Tang Huaiping. At this time, there were two old men standing respectively. An old man was dressed in grey and white robes, named Tang Qian. He is considered to be the strongest person in the Tang family, and he is also the oldest ancestor in the Tang family. Next to Tang Qian, the man was wearing a brown robe. He looks like a very easy to get together old man. His expression at this time seemed a little unsightly. Have you found out who did it? Following Tang Huaiping, Tang Qian, and the old man in brown, they remained silent for a long time. Tang Qian finally broke the silence of this moment. He asked in a low voice to Tang Huaiping beside him. Ancestor, I still don't know who did it. Tang Huaiping lowered his head slightly and responded in a low voice. No matter who does it, this matter will be an extremely heavy blow to our Tang family. As he spoke, Tang Qian, the ancestor of the Tang family, couldn't help but sigh slightly. Then, he put his hands behind his back, he turned around silently and walked step by step towards the direction of the Tang family. The Tang family wants these 50 brand new black jade unicorns. Their preparations are already extremely sufficient. There are 3 practitioners who have completed bone refining, 5 who are in the advanced stage of bone refining, and 10 practitioners who are in the early to mid stage of bone refining, and there are more than 100 people in the realm of skin refining. Even if you don't count the ancestor of the Tang family who is in the early stage of Zang refining, such a group of practitioners can be found anywhere in Huaishui County. It can be regarded as an extremely powerful force, but, now, such a powerful force was suddenly lost in Tangjia city. How could the Tang family accept this easily? Ancestor, next. What should our Tang family do? After Tang Huaiping, who was following Tang Qian, was silent for a moment, he couldn't help but ask. What should be done next? Tang Qian thought for a while, and then responded with a slightly hoarse voice, shrink the defense line as much as possible. As long as we can defend this 3-acre of our Tang family's land, it will be considered a task. Fortunately, the more the many forces in the Gale dynasty fight, the more chaotic the situation becomes. It's like a pool of muddy water. I can't see the current situation clearly. I thought before that we only needed to deal with the forces in Huaishui County. Now it seems that I was a little naive. After a while, Tang Qian, Tang Huaiping, and the Tang family's ancestors in brown robes returned to the Tang family's territory. Brother Tang Qian. What do you think about this matter? Is it really a force outside Huaishui County that is targeting our Tang family? In the Tang family's land, in a mysterious courtyard, the old man in brown robe, at this time, he asked Tang Qian in a low voice with no expression on his face. Perhaps it was the black jade unicorn that caused the trouble. As Tang Qian spoke, he slowly opened his closed eyes. The black jade qilin is one of the 3 great horses of the Gale dynasty, and its reputation is extremely prominent. Countless people in the Gale dynasty are staring at it. Our Tang family in Huaishui County was originally innocent, but after having this black jade unicorn, we became guilty. When the old man in brown robe heard this, he thought for a moment and then asked, Brother Tang Qian, why must it be a force outside Huaishui County that attacked our Tang family? It was not the king of Huaishui, but also or the Chen family, which has existed for who knows how many years and has extremely profound heritage. As the old man in brown robe spoke these words, Tang Qian couldn't help but laugh. Huaishui County is not a big place, but the state of refining internal organs can be called the highest in Huaishui County. In the early stage of Zang-Refining, although it is not the most top-notch existence. But it won't happen if you encounter an enemy who is also in the Zang-Refining Realm and lose your life in an instant. So, this matter can only be done by those forces outside Huaishui County. As for who did it, this matter is no longer important. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. After traveling for a while, Luo Yong successfully returned to the Luo family's territory with the 50 black jade unicorns. After returning to the Luo family's territory, he immediately came to the place where the 50 black jade unicorns that had been intercepted from the Tang family were hidden. Ancestor Changfeng, these are the 50 black jade unicorns that were intercepted from the Tang family this time. In a deserted mountain, a flat piece of land that had been transformed into a horse farm, Luo Yong was saying these words to Luo Changfeng beside him with a proud face at this time. Of course, in front of outsiders, or in front of those juniors, Luo Yong would naturally not show such a gesture, but it wouldn't hurt if he was a little childish in front of his ancestors. You did a good job on this matter. Luo Changfeng nodded and praised. That's right. After Luo Yong laughed for a long time, he seemed to have thought of something, and quickly said to Luo Changfeng beside him, Ancestor Changfeng, that lightning strike talisman is quite easy to use. 300 of them are superimposed on each other. The combined power is so powerful that even a monk in the Zang-Refining Realm cannot withstand it, and is immediately chopped into ashes. If this is the case, get thousands or even tens of thousands of them. Get rid of all the family forces that dare to oppose our Luo family. Isn't this huge Huaishui County our Luo families? Regarding what Luo Yong said next to him, Luo Changfeng couldn't help but have a black line coming out, not to mention the unification of Huaishui County so early. Is it a good thing or a bad thing to directly expose the Luo family to other more powerful family forces? It's just that the effort and gain are not equal. Luo Changfeng already rejected such a suggestion in his heart. What can he gain by unifying Huaishui County? Food? Population? Land area? These things seemed good, but in fact they were not of much use to Luo Changfeng. Instead of spending thousands or even tens of thousands of lightning talismans in order to unify Huaishui County, he might as well throw these lightning strike talismans to the Wandan Sect and let the Wandan Sect help him sell these lightning strike talismans, then, replace all those lightning strike talismans with spirit stones. Isn't this a wonderful thing? In this cold and cruel world, strength is still respected after all. The weak will eat the strong, and the fittest will survive. This is the only law of survival on this continent. Even if you have millions of troops under your command, or even tens of millions of troops, or even hundreds of millions of troops. But what should you do if you meet a fairyland monk? Even if we don't talk about those monks in the fairyland, what do you think if they are just transformed into mortals in the fairyland? How can an army of ordinary people protect you in the face of those terrifying entities? If you want to go out and have some fun, that's fine. But don't put all your thoughts on this, causing your cultivation to stagnate. After speaking, Luo Qingshan glanced at Luo Yong next to him, then he put his hands behind his back, silently disappeared from Luo Yong's sight. Is strength everything? Luo Yong looked at the direction in which his ancestors were leaving, and his expression couldn't help but become a little confused. However, it was only a moment later, his eyes regained their usual firmness. What Patriarch Qingshan said is correct, however, there is nothing wrong with his behavior. The weak eat the strong, and the fittest survive. This is indeed the only law of survival on this continent, but within a family, there are always some people who have to pay. If so, why should someone else rule the world? Why can't he, the Luo family? Chapter 93 The prototype of the locust plague, Luo Qingshan is gone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next few days, Huaishui County once again returned to its former peace. On the Huaishui Wang Fengwentai side, it seems that it was because of the capture of a county seat and 2 towns of the Tang family. Therefore, I am working hard to digest my gains at this time, although the Tang family was very angry about this matter, but because too many things have happened recently. In addition, an ancestor of the Tang family who was in the early stage of Zang-Refining died, which resulted in the Tang family's behavior gradually becoming more prudent and cautious in recent days. As for the Chen family, an established family, it's still the same as in the past. If you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. Qingshan Zhenluo's words. In these few days, he is busy digging wells and deep wells. As time goes by, as winter completely passes, the temperature outside is rising every day, especially at noon, when the sun hangs above people's heads. The sun at that time was extremely scorching, and the temperature at that time was simply beyond what a normal person could bear. Such a situation has not only caused the vast majority of people to stay at home. As a result, development in various places gradually slowed down. Similarly, it also caused the crops that had just emerged in the farmland to gradually lose their original vitality. The weather is really getting hotter and hotter. If this continues, let alone harvesting, these crops will probably be burned to death. Outside Qingshan town, near the reclaimed farmland, as the young master of the Luo family, Luo Chuan could not help but whisper as he walked forward. If we close the city gates and refuse to accept the refugees, it can actually reduce the consumption rate of some food. Next to Luo Chuan, Hu Min suddenly said. Of course I know this kind of thing. However, this plan is not a long-term solution. I want to achieve sustainable development. These crops in the farmland are still the most important. As he spoke, Luo Chuan suddenly looked towards the farmland, where there were small locusts crowded with some wilted buds. Have you noticed that in recent days, the number of locusts seems to be getting bigger and bigger? More and more. Hearing this, Hu Min lowered his head slightly. After thinking for a while, he whispered to Luo Chuan in front of him, the number of small locusts has indeed been increasing in recent days, but my subordinates have already begun to deal with the increasing number of small locusts. It should be effective in a few days. Luo Chuan nodded and whispered, we can't be careless about the locusts. When the number of locusts is small, it's fine. But if it reaches a large scale and forms a locust plague, it will be a real disaster. In a blink of an eye, it was evening. At this time, the sun was setting and the temperature outside gradually began to drop slightly. The afterglow of the setting sun also shines on this land at this moment. Master, have you really become the deputy sect master of Wandan Sect? Is this really a low-grade yellow-level alchemy furnace? Qingshan town, the land of the Luo family, in a small courtyard exuding ancient charm, Luo Qingshan was sitting quietly under a stone pavilion, holding a glass of ice-cold tea with ice cubes in it. While squinting his eyes, he drank in small sips. In this hot weather, it is definitely a more enjoyable thing to drink a glass of iced tea with ice cubes. However, there was something that made him feel slightly irritated. Ever since that old Guy Wang Kun entered this small courtyard, it was learned that he had become the deputy sect leader of the Luoshan Mansion branch of the Wandan Sect, and had also obtained a yellow-level low-grade alchemy furnace. That old guy has been staying in this small courtyard forever. If it weren't for the fact that this guy was somewhat effective, his alchemy talent seemed to have suddenly been opened up to Ren and Du's second line. From time to time, some ordinary first-level elixirs can be refined. Luo Qingshan had already slapped the old man to death. Wandan Sect, branch sect of Luoshan Prefecture, deputy sect leader. He is not the deputy sect leader of Wandan Sect. You need to understand this. Also, the alchemy furnace is indeed a low-grade yellow-level alchemy furnace and has good blessings for alchemy. But you old guy, can you stop touching the low-grade yellow-level alchemy furnace with your hands? After seeing Luo Qingshan's brows furrowed slightly and his face seemed a little unhappy, Wang Kun became a little more serious. Master, can you get me an alchemy furnace like this? If we can get some high-grade alchemy furnaces, my alchemy efficiency will definitely be improved a lot. I will definitely be able to earn more spiritual stones for my master by then. When Luo Qingshan heard this, he couldn't help but nodded. Although the old guy Wang Kun was sometimes not serious, what he said was indeed correct. The alchemy furnace is very important to the alchemist. If Wang Kun is given a higher grade alchemy furnace, it can indeed bring him a lot of benefits. The alchemy furnace will be replaced with another one for you in a while. However, there is no yellow level and low grade one. You can consider the ordinary and top grade one. Okay, if nothing happens, then just step back. After a while, that old guy Wang Kun finally left this yard. Luo Qingshan, who was sitting under the stone pavilion, was drinking ice-cold tea while avoiding direct sunlight. At this time, he raised his head slightly. He looked at Luo Qingshan, who was holding a Buddhist scripture in front of him, sometimes frowning and sometimes showing doubts. Luo Qingshan couldn't help but have a look of helplessness on his face. Buddhist scriptures, Luo Qingshan, there shouldn't be any connection between the two, but after the little guy Luo Qingshan went to the Luo family library several times and discovered books about Buddhist scriptures, which seemed to be able to suppress the desire to kill deep in his heart and make him gradually become calmer, this little guy the study of Buddhist scriptures became somewhat out of control. I don't know whether this is right or wrong. Looking at Luo Qingshan in front of him, Luo Qingshan couldn't help sighing while drinking tea. At this time, he could even imagine in his mind that this little guy Luo Qingshan was wearing a monk's robe on his head, and holding a string of Buddhist beads in his hand. With a shiny bald head and a kind look on his face, he said to him, "Amipa, that's good, that's good." Luo Qingshan couldn't help but shudder when he thought of this. No, probably not. He is quite familiar with this little guy Luo Qingshan. It shouldn't turn into the posture he imagined in his mind. Ancestor Qingshan. Suddenly, Luo Qingshan put down the Buddhist scripture in his hand. He looked at Luo Qingshan in front of him with a somewhat serious expression. Huh? What's wrong? Luo Qingshan asked with some confusion. It is said that among the 13 mansions of the Gale dynasty, there are many Buddhist sects in the Balian mansion. The great Xiankong temple has a great reputation. I want to go there and see. May I? As Luo Qingshan spoke, he looked at his ancestor Luo Qingshan in front of him sincerely. Are you serious? Luo Qingshan couldn't help but frown slightly when he heard this. In his mind, the scene that just appeared again. Ancestor Qingshan, I am serious. Luo Qingshan nodded heavily. Why? Give me a reason. After Luo Qingshan thought for a moment, he replied in a low voice, Buddhist scriptures seem to have a very good suppressive effect on my impetuous heart, so. Having said this, Luo Qingshan stopped talking. In fact, apart from the fact that Buddhist scriptures are very effective in suppressing his inner desire to kill, there was another very important reason that he didn't say, that is, he didn't want Ancestor Qingshan to be troubled because of his own affairs. Ancestor Qingshan has already worked hard enough for his family, his personal stuff, if you can. It's better not to trouble your ancestor as much as possible. Decided? After a long silence, Luo Qingshan asked again. It's been decided. Luo Qingshan whispered. The Gale dynasty is currently in chaos. If you leave the family, you may encounter some dangers. When Luo Qingshan heard this, he lowered his head slightly and became somewhat silent. After seeing that this little guy Luo Qingshan seemed to have really decided, Luo Qingshan could only sigh helplessly. Actually, let's be honest, when he has nothing to do, helping the little guy Qingshan a little will not hinder Luo Qingshan's time. Moreover, judging from Luo Qingshan's cultivation talent, no matter how hard he tries to practice, it would be quicker to just move his fingers a little and add more. But now that the little guy has decided, Luo Qingshan could only choose to respect his decision. If you go to Balian Mansion, when will you come back? It depends on the situation. If possible, try to come back once a year. Come back once a year. But when Luo Qingshan heard this, he nodded silently and said, "That's okay." As time flows, in a blink of an eye, the next day came. Luo Qingshan wants to leave the family, in addition to having a good talk with Luo Qingshan, his father, and the brothers in the Luo family. Naturally, I also want to say goodbye properly. After all, this is the way to go. When he will come back, or in other words, whether he can come back, will be unknown. Really leaving, Luo family land, in the room where the head of the Luo family is. That is Luo Ping, the current head of the Luo family. At this time, he was looking at Luo Qingshan in front of him with some surprise, and Luo Chuan is also located in the room, and, that Luo Yong, a bit of reluctance flashed through his eyes. There are many Buddhist schools in Balian Mansion, and the custom of worshipping Buddha there is very strong. However, this road seems a bit far from our Luoshan mansion. You may encounter some dangers during this period. Have you really decided to go? Luo Ping looked at Luo Qingshan in front of him and asked again. Luo Qingshan nodded and said, "The effect of the Jingxin pill will eventually become weaker and weaker. If you want to completely suppress the desire to kill in your heart, you have to think of other ways." In the room, Luo Chuan hesitated for a moment. After all, he couldn't hold back and whispered to Luo Qingshan in front of him, "If we talk about Buddhism, there are quite a few bald donkeys and Buddhist believers in our Qingshan town. When you go to Balian Mansion, you won't become like those crazy Buddhist believers in our Qingshan town, right? If that's the case, you might as well stay in the clan." Luo Chuan's words continued to echo in the room, but, regarding Luo Chuan's question, Luo Qingshan did not choose to answer. No one dares to guarantee something like this easily. In the end, Luo Qingshan finally took some things with him and left the Luo family land, on his own path. But before leaving, Luo Qingshan also gave the little guy a lot of things: 1,000 lightning strike charms, 10 bottles of yellow-level low-grade Jingxin pills, and some food stamps that can be used as money. And 3 low-grade spiritual stones. It's not that Luo Qingshan doesn't want to give more to that little guy Luo Qingshan. The main reason is that spirit stones are too precious. Even if it is only a low-grade spirit stone, it still has an extremely fatal attraction for countless people. You must know that people are not guilty, but they are guilty of carrying a jade, so, give 3. This is the love of the ancestors for the children of the clan. Not giving too much is the ancestors' protection for the children of the clan. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. Qingshan town, the land of the Luo family. In the courtyard where the ancestors of the Luo family lived, Luo Qingshan was sitting quietly under a stone pavilion, drinking a glass of cold tea in his hand and looking into the distance silently. Time passes very quickly. In just a blink of an eye, the little guy Luo Qingshan had already left for several days. At the beginning, Luo Qingshan was a little uncomfortable with it. After all, the little guy had been with him in the yard for some time. Now he's gone suddenly. Naturally he would feel this way. "I don't know, how is the little guy doing now?" Luo Qingshan thought as he drank up the cup of ice-cold tea in his hand. After that, he stood up silently. "After walking out of this stone pavilion, I closed my eyes and silently felt the burning sun." This was just less than 3 minutes of standing. Luo Qingshan felt it, and his skin felt slightly hot. Even his strength has reached the state of perfect Zang-Refining. And he will feel this way, so he doesn't have to think about other ordinary people. Summer hasn't even arrived yet, but the sun is already so poisonous. What if summer really comes? In the past few years, the sunshine was not as fierce as this year, right? Luo Qingshan stood under the sunlight for a while. After that, he returned to the stone pavilion. "Pour yourself a glass of cold tea." Quite casually, he picked up a book called Introduction to Talisman on the stone table and slowly started to read it. If he remembered correctly, among the special talismans, there seems to be a special talisman called Cooling Talisman. Cooling Talisman, as the name suggests. It's a talisman that can lower the temperature. There is a cooling talisman, and naturally there is a warming talisman. However, now that the temperature outside has reached such a high level, Luo Qingshan will naturally not sit around and study the warming talisman. Is this how the cooling charm works? The production process is so simple. Isn't it enough that this special meow has hands? After a little research on how to make a cooling charm, Luo Qingshan began to make it. The cooling talisman is one of the special talismans. There is no lethality, therefore, the difficulty of making them will be simpler than those of offensive or defensive talismans. Of course, the simplicity here is limited to Luo Qingshan. If other ordinary people or practitioners want to research or even make a cooling talisman, the difficulty is as high as the sky. It took about 10 minutes, after he failed 3 times. Finally, he successfully made the first cooling charm. The grade of this cooling talisman is not very high, it is at the lower level of mortal world. However, judging from Luo Qingshan's experience, the effect of this talisman should be very good. After the talisman was successfully made just now, this mundane and low-grade talisman seemed to have stolen a lot of power in the world. In this way, it should be able to add a lot of effects to the talisman. Just give it a try. Use the power of qi and blood in your body to pour it into the talisman. After activating this cooling charm, in an instant, this low-grade cooling talisman floated into the air. Until the cooling talisman rose to a certain height, it began to absorb high temperatures within a certain range one after another. Just the best of ordinary things. Can it directly cover the entire Luo family? Hey, that's not right. This thing seems to be able to adjust the range and temperature. I guess, if that's the case, then it's a great relationship. The operation of the cooling talisman to absorb temperature was a bit beyond my expectation. I originally thought it was cooling, but I didn't expect it was absorbing temperature. However, it seems that absorbing temperature makes sense. After all, the high temperature has been absorbed. Doesn't the outdoor temperature naturally drop? As the cooling talisman rose to the sky above the Luo family's land, and, after gradually starting to absorb the surrounding temperature, the temperature inside the Luo family's land gradually began to drop as time went by. Why does it feel cooler? Is it my imagination? Luo family land, in the room where the head of the Luo family is, just as Luo Ping was working extremely diligently on the mountain of government affairs on his desk, he suddenly frowned slightly. He looked out of the room. However, the vicious sunlight outside the room was still so dazzling. Today's climate is still extremely good. Such a situation made Luo Ping feel a little puzzled. However, Luo Ping did not dwell on this issue for too long. After all, as the head of the Luo family, he still has many things waiting for him to deal with. He doesn't have that much free time to study why the temperature suddenly dropped. The effect seems to be good. In the land of the Luo family, there is a courtyard exuding an ancient charm. Luo Qingshan looked at the cooling charm above his head, feel the gradually lowering temperature. He couldn't help but nodded with satisfaction. It seems that this special type of talisman is not completely useless. Chapter 94. The opportunity has come. Send troops to Dongtu Town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Nothing to do, he also made a dozen cooling charms ranging from low grade to top grade. Among them, the higher the grade of the talisman, the maximum range that can be covered is larger. The higher the total amount of temperature that can be absorbed and stored, the longer it can be maintained. As for the so-called warming talisman, Luo Qingshan also spent about half an hour on research and came up with 3 pictures. However, the weather is already hot enough now, therefore, Luo Qingshan did not try to activate the 3 warming charms. He just stored the 3 warming charms in the storage bag on his waist. A blink of an eye, a few more days passed. In the past few days, a lot of turmoil occurred in Huaishui County. The king of Huaishui has digested a county seat and 2 towns. They directly gathered about 300,000 elite troops and once again launched a frenzied attack towards the territory belonging to the Tang family. The Tang family tried their best to defend against this. After all, I have already suffered a loss. It's impossible for the Tang family to eat it a second time, right? As for the so-called 300,000 elite army, in fact, this was only announced to the outside world. In fact, what the king of Huaishui actually mobilized could be called an elite armored army. Their number is only about 100,000. The remaining more than 200,000 people are all farmers used to assist these 100,000 elite troops in fighting. Qingshan Town, the land of the Luo family, in the room where the head of the Luo family is, Luo Ping, the current head of the Luo family, was sitting quietly on the throne, listening silently to what Luo Chuan said in front of him. So, at this time, the war between the Tang family and the king of Huaishui has entered a fierce stage. Luo Ping suddenly spoke up. Father, I think we might be able to use this opportunity to annex the towns near Qingshan Town. Luo Chuan said calmly. Annexing several nearby towns. Luo Ping heard this and couldn't help but narrowed his eyes slightly. How do you plan to solve the food problem? It is easy to capture several nearby towns that do not belong to the Huaishui King, Chen family, and Tang family. But if you want to follow up management, this is not a simple matter. The food problem alone can make our Luo family a little breathless. Luo Chuan nodded silently, thought for a moment and then whispered, as for the issue of food, I have considered it before. It has become almost impossible to buy food from Huaishui County, so if we want to solve the problem of food shortage, we must purchase food from outside at a higher price. And just about half a month ago, I got in touch with the Luo family outside Luoshan Mansion and in Jiangnan Mansion. It is said that the bluestone veins that are abundant near Qingshan town can be used in exchange for food. Jiangnan Mansion. Hearing these 3 words, Luo Ping couldn't help but a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. The land of Jiangnan Mansion is the place rich in food in the Gale dynasty. Compared with the food output of our Huaishui County, it is even more worse than that. And the Naluo family is one of the 4 major families in Jiangnan Mansion. They control countless farmers and fields. If our Luo family can get in touch with the Naluo family, or even establish a friendship between the 2 families, this food shortage problem can indeed be temporarily solved. In the room, Luo Chuan hurriedly said, so, what does father mean to agree with third uncle to send troops to capture the towns near Qingshan town? Luo Ping said calmly, the premise of this matter is that what you just said, the transaction with the Luo family is true. As time flows, following a Luo family team carrying a large amount of food, they gradually entered the Luo family boundary in Qingshan town, the 30,000 armored elite stationed outside Qingshan town and trained by Luo Yong himself. Finally, the mobilization began, slowly moving towards the vicinity of Qingshan town, those towns that did not belong to the Luo family, Chen family, Tang family, Huaishui King. The 4 forces were gradually approaching, of course, except for these 30,000 elite troops. The Luo family also mobilized about 50,000 farmers. On the one hand, he is responsible for assisting the march of these 30,000 armored elites, and on the other hand, he is responsible for transporting the food and grass for these 30,000 armored elites. There are 18 counties and 36 towns in Huaishui County. Among them, the county seat is almost all in the hands of the Tang family, the Chen family, and the king of Huaishui, although most of the 36 towns are in the hands of the Tang family, the Chen family, and the king of Huaishui, but it is still a small town. It has not yet been brought under the control of the 3 parties. Coincidentally, it is near Qingshan town. There are about 5 ownerless towns, each standing in different locations. Huaishui County, Dongtu Town, as the strongest family in Dongtu Town, the Ding family has the highest reputation among the 5 nearby ownerless towns. At this time, there are a large number of representatives of family forces. He hurriedly walked towards a heavily guarded meeting hall. Head of the Ding family, how do you think this matter should be resolved? Before, it was okay to live in peace and harmony. Now, the Luo family located outside Dongtu Town has mobilized nearly 100,000 elite troops and is approaching Dongtu Town and the other 4 towns. For this matter, if we still don't make some preparations in advance, how do we deal with the brutal Qingshan Luo family? How do we deal with the 100,000 armored elites under the command of the Luo family? The original Huangshu Town and the family forces in Huangshu Town are still vivid in my mind. In the meeting hall, there was a middle-aged man with a strong build and a rather rugged appearance. After seeing that almost all representatives of the nearby family forces had arrived, he couldn't help but feel panic and uneasiness in his heart. Facing him, he sat quietly on the main seat and closed his eyes tightly. Ding Fan, the head of the Ding family who seemed extremely calm, spoke up. However, Ding Fan has not spoken yet. In the hall, another head of the family couldn't help but sneered, and said with a rather casual expression, 100,000 armored elites. Do the Luo family have so many armored elites? Why do I see the number of armored soldiers in that group of troops? At most there are only 30,000, and the rest are farmers. Nowadays, with so many of our families gathered together, and our armored elites joining together, we can collect over 100,000 yuan. So, For the 30,000 armored soldiers of the Luo family. What are we afraid of? As soon as the head of the family said this, in an instant, he received support from countless families. The area of Huaishui County is so large, the so-called territory controlled by the Luo family only consists of 2 towns. Even after the expansion of Qingshan Town, the area was slightly larger than before. Even in the past few months, the Luo family has continued to accept refugees. The number of people under his command has increased a lot, but so what? Armored elite soldiers cannot be trained casually, not to mention anything else. It's just the issue of food. Can the Luo family of Qingshan Town handle it? The original Huaishui Town was not united enough and its strength was not strong. It is reasonable that Qingshan Town was easily captured. But if you think about it carefully, can Huaishui be compared with us? That in the meeting hall, another family head stood up impatiently. It seems that he wants to be in front of the head of the Nading family. Good performance. Okay. As the discussion in the hall became more and more intense, the current head of the Ding family, Ding Fan, who was sitting quietly on the main seat with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes, looking quite calm. He glanced at the people in front of him, and then said in a low voice, "If the Luo family in Qingshan Town is in peace, that's all, but if you dare to attack us, it's not certain who will destroy whom." Ding Fan's voice was a little cold. As his words gradually echoed in the hall, everyone in the hall was also a little stunned. The head of the Ding family. Suddenly, someone spoke. Everyone turned their heads and looked towards the source of the sound. It turned out that the person who spoke was the head of the Feng family. It is said that the ancestor of the Feng family was once a prince in the Dafeng dynasty. However, it seemed that I was on the wrong team during this period. This leads to the gradual weakening of this vein. If the Luo family of Qingshan Town is as simple as you imagine, Huaishui Town will not fall directly in just a few days. Not to mention anything else, it's just the ancestor of the Qingshan Luo family. Who can handle it here? That's a monk at the Zang-Refining Realm. The monks in the Zang-Refining Realm are not comparable to those in the Bone-Refining Realm. As soon as these words came out, the whole place suddenly fell into a dead silence. Before, everyone was attracted by the 100,000 armored elites of the Luo family in Qingshan Town. Everyone seems to have forgotten the real trump card of the Qingshan Town Luo family, not the so-called armored elites. Rather, it was the ancestor of the Luo family who was in the Luo family's land and had the cultivation level of Zang refining. It is precisely because there is such a terrifying person in the Luo family. This led to the Luo family, which should have been extremely inconspicuous. It has become a force that can be compared with the 3 behemoths of the Tang family, the Chen family, and the king of Huaishui. Yes. Not to mention other things, the Zang refining ancestor in the Luo family is not something we can easily deal with. In the hall, someone whispered to himself. With the perfection of bone refining, one can be said to be the strongest among our forces. What if the Zang-Refining Realm monk from the Luo family suddenly appeared in Dongtu Town? Who can compete with it? In the hall, someone was also whispering like this, and just when the morale of everyone in this hall gradually dropped to freezing point, one is wearing a black and white robe. He has long gray hair, the face is covered with wrinkles and markings, his whole body exuded an aura of decay. The skinny old man seemed to be blown over by the wind at any time while walking. At this time, he was holding his hands behind his back and hunched over. Silently walked into this hall. Refining Zang. The old man listened to the words of the person in front of him and looked at the fear and uneasiness on the face of the person in front of him that was difficult to dissipate. The corners of his mouth could not help but curve upward slightly, and his face was full of wrinkles and black markings. On the other side, there was also a look of disdain. He was silent for a moment, composed his words, and said in a low voice, "The guy from the Luo family is just a newcomer who has just broken through Zang refining within half a year, so why should we be afraid?" After the old man said these words, the old man's body also spewed out an aura unique to the early stage of Zang refining. However, it is a little different from ordinary monks in the early stage of Zang refining. The aura of this old man is obviously much stronger than that of ordinary monks in the early stages of Zang refining. Even, it is in the middle stage beyond the early stage of Zang refining. It seems to be only one step away. This senior is. After looking at the old man in front of me, I felt the terrifying aura gushing out from this old man's body. which was enough to make people feel despair. Everyone in this meeting hall couldn't help but widen their eyes and swallowed their saliva. The atmosphere in the hall couldn't help but become more and more tense for a while. This is my ancestor of the Ding family, Ding Qinshu. As early as more than 20 years ago, I had already achieved a breakthrough in cultivation to the realm of internal organs refining. However, because my ancestor has devoted himself to practice, therefore its existence is not known to outsiders. Now, my ancestor's cultivation level is only one step away from the middle stage of Zang-Refining. I wonder if such a being is stronger or weaker than the ancestor of the Luo family. After a while, Ding Qinshu, the ancestor of the Ding family, left this hall, returned to his own courtyard, continued to practice hard in seclusion, trying to break through the middle stage of Zang-Refining, and located in the Ding family land. That place is in a hall filled with major family forces. Ding Fan is the current head of the Ding family. At this time, he was sitting quietly on the main seat, looking at the people in front of him. His face was filled with smiles. If this is really the case, my Wang family will obey the orders of the Ding family in the future. My Li family will also follow the orders of the Ding family in the future. My Bai family should do the same. As everyone in the hall expressed their opinions, Ding Fan gradually turned his attention to the Feng family. Among the 5 towns, the Ding family is the best. The Feng family is the well-deserved second family. In his hands, he controls resources that are even greater than those of the Ding family. It doesn't matter whether other families surrender or not, but the Feng family must bow their heads, otherwise, he would have to use some unconventional means. After seeing the expression of Ding Fan, the head of the Ding family, gradually becoming colder, as the current head of the Feng family, Feng Xingwen couldn't help but lower his head slightly. He looked helpless and whispered, "In the future, our Feng family will also obey all the orders of the Ding family." Good. Ding Fan nodded heavily. After that, this meeting related to the future fate of the 5 towns ended. Representatives of all the family forces also rushed towards the direction of their family. There is very important news, and representatives of these families must inform their senior officials. Qingshan Luo family is very powerful. This is not wrong, however, judging from what I saw and heard today. It seems that this is the Ding family in Dongtu Town. Its comprehensive strength is far superior to that of the Luo family in Qingshan Town. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. In the early morning, when the sky is not completely bright yet, under the Luo family, the 30,000 armored elite army led by Luo Yong. At this time, they had arrived at a nearby town called Dongtu Town, and over time, Luo Yong also gradually surrounded Dongtu Town. He seemed to want to deal with Dongtu Town the same way he dealt with Huaishui Town, Luo family military camp. Inside the coach's tent, at this time, Luo Yong was sitting casually on an armchair. His expression remained calm and unchanged. On the wooden table is a map of Huaishui County. This map was not purchased, but during this period, Luo Yong continued to send people to explore nearby places, thus painting them one stroke at a time. The map I bought is good, but it's not particularly accurate anyway, therefore, it is better to make maps yourself. The area of Dongtu Town. It seems to be several times bigger than Huaishui Town. The population in the city should be more than 400,000. There should be a lot of troops in the city. What do you think we should do next to break through Dongtu Town? After the coach raised this issue, all the generals blushed and shouted for battle. It was as if he didn't take Dongtu Town seriously. Attacking the city directly. Luo Yong stood up silently and walked out of the tent. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the city standing on the land in front of him. After thinking for a moment, he couldn't help but nodded silently, and just when Luo Yong was about to give the order to fight first and then talk about it, next to him, he was wearing a Taoist robe. He held a white feather fan in his hand. He looked more like a scammer, or Tang Jian, one of those fortune tellers on the street. At this time, he couldn't help but wave the white feather fan in his hand. With a slight smile on his face, he whispered, "Brother Luo, this Dongtu Town is not simple." Not simple. Hearing Tang Jian's words, he couldn't help but frown slightly. If so, it was someone else who said it. Luo Yong wouldn't care too much, but these words were said by Tang Jian, a big liar and a great charlatan. Then he would have to think about it carefully. After all, the reason why he was able to intercept the Hu Tang family's 100 black jade unicorns and the Tang family's caravan carrying a large amount of food. The main reason is because of the magic stick Tang Jian. What's not simple? Lowering his head slightly, and after thinking for a moment, Luo Yong asked in a low voice. Brother Luo, look. As Tang Jian spoke, he pointed at the East Earth town in front of him with the white feather fan in his hand and said, did you see anything unusual? An unusual place. Luo Yong raised his head and took a closer look at Dongtu Town in front of him. The more he looked, the more confused he became. Something unusual? Isn't this nothing? Chapter 95 The Wandan Sect's Mission, the Yellow-Level Low-Grade Defensive Spiritual Weapon Award. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95 Wandan Sect's Mission, Yellow-Level Low-Grade Defensive Spiritual Weapon Reward. Cannot you see? Tang Jian turned his head and looked at the confused Luo Yong beside him, but soon, he remembered, it seemed that only he could see luck. Luo Yong beside him could not be seen. Brother Luo, there is a big difference between Dongtu Town and Huaishui Town. How about getting ready? Wait until the army recuperates its strength before choosing to attack. Tang Jian waved the white feather fan in his hand and said calmly. Fine. Luo Yong nodded, and then sat back on the main seat. The generals in the tent left the commander's tent one after another, gradually began to prepare some matters before attacking Dongtu Town. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. Luo Yong, located outside Dongtu Town, is still making preparations for the siege. It is located in Qingshan Town, within the land of the Luo family. In the room where the head of the Luo family is, at this time, Luo Ping was reading the brochures about grain inventory. Although the food shipped by the Luo family of Jiangnan Prefecture this time is not much, it is the first transaction after all. Trust has not been completely established between the two parties. If we come here a few more times, the food crisis should be solved for the time being. At that time, we can continue to expand the scale of recruiting refugees. With this thought in his mind, Luo Ping suddenly raised his head and whispered to the Luo family servants guarding outside the room, here comes someone. Master, what are your orders? The servant wearing the exclusive grey clothes of the Luo family lowered his head slightly and cupped his hands. His expression looked quite respectful. What stage is the construction of the outer city of Qingshan Town currently at? The servant lowered his head slightly and responded in a low voice, Master, the construction of the outer city of Qingshan Town has completed about 2 floors. The remaining part will take about a year to complete. Luo Ping nodded, and then asked, how are the monks in the outer city doing now? Is the number of believers still increasing? This time, after the servant thought for a while, he responded in a low voice, the monks in the outer city are still spreading various information about Buddhism. Among them, if you enter Buddhism, you can go to the bliss of the West after death. This view of the world is the most promoted. The number of believers in the outer city has increased by at least 3 times since a while ago. The number of believers has increased by at least 3 times, that when Luo Ping heard this, he couldn't help but frown slightly. However, after a while, he waved his hand to signal the servants in the room to leave. After the Luo family servant left, Luo Ping was once again the only one left in the silent room. The number of believers has increased by at least 3 times. After death, can one go to the Western Paradise? Thinking about these things, Luo Ping's head couldn't help but feel a little pain. For those monks in the outer city, he really didn't know how to deal with it. Before, he informed Patriarch Changfeng about this matter, but Patriarch Changfeng said that there was no need to pay attention to it for the time being. Now, as time goes by, the number of followers of those monks is increasing at a viral speed. If things continue like this, will this Qingshan Town really be his Luo family's Qingshan Town? However, what made Luo Ping feel happy was the monk's question, whether it is the king of Huaishui, the Tang family, or the Chen family. It seems that they have not yet taken action against the monks and their followers. I don't know if the 3 parties don't know how to solve the problem, or they don't want to take action against the monks and their followers. Qingshan Town, the land of the Luo family, in a small courtyard exuding a quaint atmosphere. At this time, Luo Changfeng was sitting quietly under the stone pavilion, holding a glass of cold tea with ice cubes in his hand. He kept drinking it in small sips. In front of him was Fu Qiu, the current sect leader of the Luoshan Mansion branch of the Wandan Sect. At this time, he was also sitting quietly under this stone pavilion. He was drinking a glass of cold tea in his hand. Brother Luo, you still know how to enjoy life. In this hot summer, drinking a cup of cold tea is indeed very comfortable. After Fu Qiu drank the cold tea in his hand, he poured himself another full glass. So, why did you come to me this time? Just for a sip of tea? It shouldn't be so. Luo Changfeng took a sip of the tea in his hand, then narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the old man with a cane beside him. Brother Luo, I do have an important matter when I come here this time. Oh. What's the matter? Luo Changfeng asked. Brother Luo, you also know that because there are too many branches of the Wandan Sect, there is a lot of competition between the branches of the Wandan Sect. If it were before, that would be it. With all my old bones, I can't compete with other branches of the Wandan Sect in the Gale dynasty. But now, things are different. Brother Luo, aren't you here? Luo Changfeng glanced at Fu Qiu in front of him, and asked in a low voice, so, what exactly is it? The Wandan Sect Master sent an order today. Within 10 days, as long as 1,000 yellow-level low-grade detoxification pills are handed in, the main sect will give the alchemist a yellow-level low-grade defensive spiritual weapon. And, when it comes to rankings at the end of the year, there will be quite a lot of preferential treatment. So. Luo Changfeng whispered, after all, you just want me to do it. A flattering smile appeared on Fu Qiu's face. With Brother Luo's ability, it must be possible. 10 days and 1,000 antidote pills, you can give it a try. However, this raw material. When Fu Qiu heard this, he quickly said, the raw materials are naturally from the main sect. Brother Luo, there is no need to worry about this. If it is like this, it doesn't hurt to give it a try. Fu Qiu asked excitedly with an old face, so, Brother Luo agrees? Brother Fu is here in person. What else can I do? Luo Changfeng said helplessly. After all, he still owed Fu Qiu a favor. The low-level yellow-level alchemist in the courtyard was the one he had passed over from Fu Qiu before. Now, it would be somewhat unkind not to agree to such a request. Besides, he doesn't need to provide the raw materials. If successful, you can also obtain a low-grade yellow-level defensive spiritual weapon. Why wouldn't he do this kind of thing? Brother Luo, if that's the case, I'll go back to Luoshan Mansion to branch the sect first. There are still many things waiting for me to deal with at the branch sect. Just when Fu Qiu was planning to go back, Luo Changfeng suddenly stood up and blocked his way. There's something that's a bit troublesome. Fu Qiu clenched the special crutch in his hand and asked with some surprise, oh. What can even Brother Luo find trouble? In the outer city of Qingshan Town, a group of monks came unexpectedly. Nowadays, the number of Buddhist believers in the city outside Qingshan Town is increasing. How does Brother Fu think this matter should be handled? Monk? Buddhist believer? Fu Qiu raised his head slightly and gave a response after thinking for a moment. Brother Luo, you should be talking about those demon monks. Those monks feed on the power of faith and feed on the power of faith. For their own foundation, the stronger their faith, the more terrifying their strength becomes. Is that so? Luo Changfeng couldn't help but frown slightly, and he whispered, if that's the case, wouldn't it be better to deal with those monks as soon as possible? No. Fu Qiu shook his head silently and said with a rather helpless expression, those demon monks are extraordinary. The power behind them is not even weaker than that of our Wandan sect, and those demon monks are extremely vindictive. Luo Changfeng asked, Luoshan Mansion branch? Fu Qiu whispered, no, it's the main sect. When Luo Changfeng heard this, he couldn't help being a little stunned. If this is the case, what should we do? Regarding this issue, Fu Qiu said calmly, Brother Luo, don't worry, someone will deal with those demon monks. I think those demon monks won't be able to escape for long. After a while, Fu Qiu left this small courtyard. Luo Changfeng, who was still in the small courtyard, was constantly thinking about Fu Qiu's words, but soon he stopped thinking about what was there and what was not. 1,000 antidote pills only last 10 days, this is a big task. Even he wanted to get it done. It is estimated that it is also somewhat difficult. A blink of an eye, another day has passed. In Huaishui County, outside Dongtu Town, at this time, there were 30,000 armored elites, 50,000 reserve troops, and 100,000 farmers. He is stationed outside this city with extremely high and thick walls. Ever since Tang Jian said something, Dongtu Town was a bit complicated. Luo Yong began to mobilize all the forces that could be mobilized. Moreover, they are working hard and preparing for the war. Luo Yong doesn't have to listen to what others say. However, this old boy Tang Jian, he is really a bit evil. To say that he can pinch things is not just a random statement, and, just to be on the safe side, during this period, he also returned to the Luo family's compound, where his ancestors lived. He asked his ancestors for a total of 300 lightning strike talismans, and 100 invisibility charms. And these 400 talismans will serve as Luo Yong's absolute trump card to attack Dongtu Town. If so, everything goes well. Luo Yong will not reveal this trump card, but if something unexpected happens, for example, in this seemingly ordinary Dongtu Town, a monk in the Zang-Refining Realm suddenly appears, this trump card will be revealed directly by Luo Yong. There was no hesitation, of course. This is just an assumption. The monk in the Zang-Refining Realm is not just a cabbage. It is not unusual to encounter some Zang-Refining Realm monks in the entire Luoshan mansion, but what if, in this mere Dongtu Town, we really encountered enemies in the refining Zang realm? That's really a strange thing. Under Luo Yong's order, soon, there was nearly 200,000 Luo family troops. Then he quickly moved forward in the direction of Dongtu Town. The head of the Ding family. The Luo family's army has begun to take action. Dongtu Town, above the city wall, Feng Xingwen, who is among the Dongtu Town coalition forces and the current head of the Feng family, couldn't help but say, "I know." Ding Fan nodded expressionlessly. Before, 30,000 men in armor could be called an army of 100,000 men. Now the number of Luo family's armored men is close to 100,000. Including the farmers, there are about 200,000 troops. For such an army, I wonder how the head of the Ding family plans to deal with it. Behind Ding Fan, Feng Xingwen was silent for a moment, and then spoke abruptly again. "Of course I sit on the high platform quietly. The Luo family attacks, and I can defend easily. The defensive side always has a lot of advantages." As Ding Fan spoke, he turned his head and glanced at Feng Xingwen beside him. For some reason, he always felt it. Feng Xingwen is a piece of shit, and his words always seem to have a slightly sinister flavor. Could it be because he forced Feng Xingwen to bow his head before? Is that why Feng Xingwen's words always sound a bit strange? Thinking of this, Ding Fan couldn't help but nodded silently. Yes, that's how it should be. After all, no matter what, the ancestors of this lineage of the Feng family were once princes in the Dafeng dynasty, and their status is so noble that it goes without saying much. But now, this family has bowed its head to the Ding family in order to continue. This is definitely a great shame for the Feng family whose ancestor was once the prince of the Gale dynasty. The next situation, it's basically the Luo family's offense. Dongtu Town, on the other hand, was constantly on the defensive. During this period, both parties suffered losses from each other. However, there is something unexpected. The party with greater losses, it turned out to be a soldier of the Ding family. In just one day, the Ding family lost nearly 5,000 people. As for the Luo family, they only lost 1,000 people at most. The battle damage ratio was about 5 times, which made the head of the Ding family almost break the defense. The next day, early morning, when the sky is not completely bright yet, the surrounding temperature is still slightly cold. Even on the city wall of Dongtu Town, the armored soldiers guarding the town were a little drowsy. The attack from the Luo family soon started again. Stacks of ladders were carried by soldiers and placed beside the city wall of Dongtu Town. Trebuchet after trebuchet, one after another, one huge and extremely solid bluestone was thrown out, smashing towards the city wall of Dongtu Town and the buildings within the city wall. "Brother Tang, what do you think is the chance of our Luo family winning this battle?" The rear area of the Luo family's army. Luo Yong looked at the beautiful scene in front of him. He was in a very happy mood and asked with a smile to Tang Jian, the big fool next to him who was wearing a Taoist robe and holding a white feather fan. "The odds of winning have been 100% from the beginning." Tang Jian squinted his eyes and looked at Dongtu Town, where the black aura was getting stronger and stronger in the void in front of him. He said with a rather calm expression, "Then you said before that Dongtu Town is not simple." Luo Yong looked at Tang Jian beside him with some unhappiness. Tang Jian smiled slightly at this time, and while waving the white feather fan in his hand, he whispered, "Brother Luo, you also said it, I just said that this Dongtu Town is not simple. But I never said we would lose this battle." The corners of Luo Yong's eyes twitched slightly. After a long time, he could only sigh slightly and whispered, "You guy." A blink of an eye, the time came to noon. At this time, a scorching sun hung high in the sky. The temperature outside gradually became hotter as the harsh sunlight continued to shine. Even, it's like being by the stove. It made people frown slightly. According to common sense, during this time period, both sides should cease fighting for a few hours. After the temperature outside drops a little, it's not too late to attack. Again, however, Luo Yong today chose to be uncharacteristic. At noon, when the sun was at its most fierce, they still chose to send troops to attack this Dongtu Town. The war lasted only half an hour. The soldiers on the wall of Dongtu Town couldn't bear it anymore. Their faces were all red, and their bodies were radiating scorching heat. On my head, there would even be waves of mist rising from time to time. If this continues, not to mention continuing to fight with the Luo family, whether these soldiers will suffer from heatstroke will be unknown. However, look at the Luo family's army. The situation is somewhat different. After going through countless inhumane trainings by Luo Yong, although the number of regular troops under Luo Yong's command was only 30,000, it was not that large. However, its eliteness, its fighting power, and its will, that is definitely the most top existence. Not to mention the soldiers from Dongtu Town, the amount of training is not that large. Even the elites of Gale Dynasty, even Luo Yong dared to touch it. Time flies, in a blink of an eye. It was late at night. Dongtu Town, the land of the Ding family, in the room where the head of the Ding family is. At this time, Ding Fan had a gloomy face and held a piece of battle damage information in his hand. For a moment, his expression turned extremely ugly. The Luo family lost more than 500 armored elites, and ours lost nearly 10,000 troops. Are you sure this battle damage information is true? In the room, Ding Fan slammed the battle damage information in his hand on the table. Then, he looked at the Ding family general in front of him with an extremely ugly expression. Yes, it's true. The Ding family general knelt on one knee, his body trembling slightly. His face was full of panic. After Ding Fan heard this answer, his face couldn't help but become more and more gloomy. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped a lot. Although, during the Luo family's attack today, he had already anticipated it. However, who would have imagined that this battle loss ratio could reach a terrifying 20-to-1? This battle loss ratio is somewhat outrageous. Why? Give me a reason. As Ding Fan gradually calmed down his inner emotions, he once again asked in a low voice to the descendant in front of him. Combat strength, will, and equipment. We are all far inferior to the Luo family. Let alone the regular army of the Luo family, even the reserve army of the Luo family, I'm afraid we are far inferior. Although the general of the Ding family was a little frightened, but he still told the reasons one by one. Combat strength, will, and equipment. Hearing these words, Ding Fan couldn't help but lower his head slightly and fell into deep thought. Yes, in order to improve the strength of his family and the cultivation of his people over the years, he seems to have forgotten a little. Want to obtain an army with sufficient combat effectiveness. In addition to having people, it also requires a lot of training and high-quality equipment. And the army in our own hands that he never seemed to focus. He has never spent much money on this army. Chapter 96 New version of Epiphyllum Pill. The fourth refining viscera of the Luo family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A blink of an eye, another day passed. In the early morning, when the sky is not completely bright yet, the surrounding temperature is still slightly cold, the Luo family army located outside Dongtu Town launched a new round of attack. The head of the Ding family. The Luo family launched another attack. If this continues, perhaps it won't last long before Dongtu Town will be completely destroyed. Dongtu Town, above the city wall, the current head of the Feng family, Feng Xuanhuan, is behind Ding Fan, silently looking at the Luo family's army that was constantly attacking Dongtu Town in front of him. He couldn't help but say aloud. I know, you don't need to tell me these things. Ding Fan narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the Luo family army in front of him with a slightly solemn expression, which was like a tide. and was constantly rushing towards Dongtu Town. After a moment of silence, he couldn't help but sigh slightly. In the face of such a crazy offensive from the Luo family, in Dongtu Town, the Ding family was defeated, the coalition forces in these 5 towns were defeated. Don't look at it now. Dongtu Town is still in the hands of the Ding family, but if it continues like this, don't say 10 days and a half month or something, it may not take more than 5 or 6 days, the soldiers in Dongtu Town will be completely lost. The next step is to get ready. It's time to let the members of the family's forces take the stage. After saying that, Ding Fan turned around silently and walked towards the city wall. On the city wall, Feng Xingwen looked at the Luo family troops who were attacking crazily. Then, he looked at the figure of Ding Fan, the current head of the Ding family. Feng Xingwen couldn't help but sigh slightly. There was also a hint of helplessness on his face. People under the eaves have to bow their heads. For Dongtu Town and the 4 nearby towns, the Ding family is the absolute king. It is not an exaggeration to say that the Ding family is a local emperor. In addition, the cultivation level of the ancestor of the Ding family is only 1 step away from even the middle stage of Zang-Refining. In this way, there is a gap between the Ding family and the Qingshan family. In fact, the difference is not that big. If the ancestor of the Ding family was willing, the Qingshan suppression Luo family's offensive could easily collapse in an instant, a blink of an eye. Time came to evening again. Dongtu Town, the land of the Ding family, in the room where the head of the Ding family is, as the current head of the Ding family, Ding Fan is sitting quietly on the throne. In his hand, he held a copy of today's battle damage and silently flipped through it. The battle damage information is clearly recorded. The Ding family lost about 10,000 soldiers today, the Luo family lost at most 6 to 700 soldiers, 6 to 700, this number is slightly higher than the number of soldiers lost by the Luo family yesterday, but if compared with the 10,000 lost by oneself, this is somewhat trivial. Comer. Suddenly, Ding Fan shouted in a low voice. Master, what are your orders? Outside the room, a servant of the Ding family who was watching silently heard the owner's call and trotted into the room quickly. How prepared are the family forces? Ding Fan took one last look at the battle damage in his hands, and then he raised his head and looked at the Ding family servants in front of him. We are all preparing. We say we can participate by tomorrow at the latest. The servant whispered in response. Tomorrow at the latest? When Ding Fan heard this, he nodded silently, waved his hand and said, Okay, I understand, please step back. In the room, the servants of the Ding family lowered their heads slightly and cupped their hands, then he turned around and left the room. As time flows, in a blink of an eye, a new day has arrived. Under the orders of Luo family coach Luo Yong, the Luo family claims to have an elite army of 200,000. Then again, he quickly moved towards the direction of Dongtu Town. 10,000 the day before yesterday, 10,000 yesterday, and kill another 10,000 today. I don't believe it. Dongtu Town can persist like it is now. At the rear of the army, Luo Yong was wearing treasure armor and had a sharp blade tied to his waist. There were some curse words in his mouth. Originally, Luo Yong planned to capture Dongtu Town in 3 days. What I didn't expect was that, outside this small Dongtu Town, how could he be held back for such a long time? During this period, Luo Yong also thought about taking people to Dongtu Town himself. Conduct a wave of decapitation operations. Kill all the generals in Dongtu Town. Isn't this Dongtu Town self-defeating? But as soon as this idea appeared, Luo Yong threw it out of his mind. Don't say anything else, just say it. If every war had a beheading plan, then why is he training these soldiers? Besides, soldiers want to grow, and an army wants to keep getting stronger. You need to go through difficult battles. The more blood there is on the hands, the stronger the overall strength of an army will be. Nowadays, there is such a good sparring partner in Dongtu Town, why wouldn't he enjoy it? Noon, outside Dongtu Town. At this time, the scorching sun was in the sky. The temperature outside has once again risen to a level that is somewhat unbearable for normal people. How's it going? In the military camp, the coach is in a tough battle. Luo Yong asked the deputy general next to him in a low voice while holding a leg of lamb and gnawing at it. General, today. There seems to be something unusual in Dongtu Town today. The resistance is getting stronger. There seem to be a lot more practitioners over there. As a result, the number of losses of our army gradually began to expand. The deputy general lowered his head slightly and said this. Is the resistance getting stronger? There are a lot more practitioners in Dongtu Town. Hearing this, Luo Yong couldn't help but frown slightly, and murmured to himself, could it be that the family power in Dongtu Town has begun to exert its strength? Did you directly send those members of your family to the battlefield? If that's the case, it's understandable. After thinking of this, Luo Yong ordered the deputy general in front of him, in this case, we will also push the team of practitioners up. Let ordinary soldiers face those practitioners, which will be somewhat disadvantaged. The deputy general responded loudly, yes. Following Luo Yong, line up the team of cultivators in the army. The balance of this war has gradually tilted towards the Luo family again, those families on the city wall of Dongtu Town. To put it nicely, they are practitioners. To put it bluntly, they are just flowers in a greenhouse. His cultivation level may be pretty good. But this kind of young master has never experienced many bloody storms, never experienced many wars, and is well protected by his family. How to contend with those Luo family practitioners who crawled out of the mountain of corpses and sea of blood? Outside Dongtu Town, the war between the Luo family and the five-town alliance forces in Dongtu Town has gradually entered a fierce stage. In Qingshan Town, within the land of the Luo family, Luo Ping, the current head of the Luo family, was in a room at this time, constantly dealing with the mountains of various government affairs. Father, the caravan of the Luo family from Jiangnan Prefecture has left. In the room, Luo Chuan whispered. Are those people from the Luo family gone? But when Luo Ping heard this, he raised his head and looked at Luo Chuan in front of him, and asked in a low voice, so, how was the discussion with the Luo family about the next transaction? Not bad. After Luo Chuan nodded calmly, he then said, in about half a month, the people from the Luo family will transport the second batch of food, and the quantity of this second batch of food will be far greater. More than the first shipment of grain. That's a good thing. Luo Ping looked at Luo Chuan in front of him. After thinking for a moment, he asked, what's the situation of the war over there in Dongtu Town? It seems to be going well. Third uncle said that Dongtu Town can be captured in 10 days at most. Luo Ping frowned slightly and asked in surprise, 10 days? Luo Chuan in the room seemed to notice the doubtful look on his father's face, so, he explained aloud, over there in Dongtu Town, the Ding family is very powerful and has a very high reputation among several nearby towns. Recently, the Nading family has gathered the power of several nearby towns to form a five-town alliance. The number of armored soldiers under my command is at least 100,000. So, it takes a little longer. Is that so? Luo Ping suddenly understood after hearing this explanation. It's not that he doesn't know the combat effectiveness of Luo Yong's elite army. Logically speaking, if you want to capture a town, it can take as short as 2 days and as long as 3 days, it will not take more than 5 days at most, but now, it still takes such a long time. There must be a reason for this. Is the water level of the Huai River still falling? In recent days, it has continued to decline. The number of locusts you told me before is still increasing. After Luo Chuan thought for a while, he replied, although we have been taking precautions against the problem of the increasing number of locusts, the effect does not seem to be particularly obvious. If that's the case, that's a bit of a problem. Luo Ping frowned slightly, and his mood seemed to gradually become less good. People often say that a severe drought must be followed by a catastrophic disaster. In recent years, as time goes by, the drought gradually became more severe, countless people have been displaced, and countless farmland has been cracked, becoming a land barren of grass. Countless crops have withered and died. Last year, his side in Huaishui County was fine. After all, there is an endless stream of Huai River on the edge of Huaishui County. The problem of water resources is not particularly fatal, but since this year, things have been a little different. As soon as winter is over, the outdoor temperature begins to rise crazily. At noon, the outside will look like a big furnace. It was so hot that it was almost unbearable. Even, due to the influence of this high-temperature weather, the water level of Huai River on the edge of Huai River County has also been declining continuously during this period. The downward trend is extremely obvious. Compared with previous years when the water level of Huaihe River was at its lowest, it was even lower. If things continue like This Luo Ping was really a little scared. The Huai River on the edge of Huaishui County will gradually dry up little by little, until it disappears completely. Is the deep well still being drilled? As the atmosphere in the room gradually became somewhat silent, Luo Ping, who was sitting quietly on the main seat, asked again. The number of deep wells has doubled compared to the previous period. But deep wells don't produce much water. If the Huaihai River dries up completely, those deep wells will probably be like a drop in the bucket and won't be able to hold up for too long. Luo Chuan said with a calm expression. After a while, Luo Chuan left the room where his father dealt with government affairs, although, they only need to establish trust with the Luo family in Jiangnan Mansion and establish a friendship between the two parties. The Luo family's food problem will be easily solved, but after all, these grains belong to the Luo family of Jiangnan Prefecture. If the Luo family wants to develop and grow, after all, you need to have your own food production area. Being controlled by others is not a good thing. Qingshan Town, the land of the Luo family, in the courtyard where the ancestors of the Luo family lived. At this time, Luo Changfeng was standing silently near a yellow-level low-grade furnace cauldron, while paying attention to all aspects of the medicinal liquids in the furnace. While constantly circulating the power of qi and blood in the body, continuously injected into the flame below the furnace, this allows the flame to remain at a certain temperature for a long time. It should be done. After thinking silently, Luo Changfeng stopped outputting the power of energy and blood. At the same time, he waved his hand, extinguished the flame under the cauldron. He stretched out his skinny right hand and opened the lid of the yellow-level low-grade furnace cauldron. After the lid was opened, it was instant, then a burst of danxiang penetrated into his nasal cavity. The fragrance of red pepper was fragrant and made him feel very comfortable. However, what surprised Luo Changfeng was that, there are only 3 pitiful pills lying quietly at the bottom of the yellow-level low-grade furnace cauldron. The elixir is an epiphyllum, a low-grade yellow epiphyllum elixir. It is a new version of Epiphyllum Pill that has been continuously transformed and adjusted by Luo Changfeng. Before, in order to do this, he failed dozens of times. There were even hundreds of low-grade spiritual stones wasted. However, this period was not without gains. For example, the 3 yellow-level low-grade epiphyllum pills lying quietly at the bottom of the alchemy furnace now are Luo Changfeng's few gains. Is the quantity of this batch of elixirs a little too small? Take the 3 epiphyllum pills in your hand. After taking a closer look, Luo Changfeng's eyes couldn't help but narrow slightly. After the transformation, the side effects of this epiphyllum pill seem to be much smaller. From the previous longevity, potential, and squeeze in all aspects. Now it's just a way to exploit potential. Shou Yuan, it seems that it will no longer be deducted. In this case, it's not bad. After nodding silently, Luo Changfeng took out a white porcelain bottle, carefully put the 3 epiphyllum pills into the porcelain vase. The efficacy of this new version of the yellow-level low-grade epiphyllum elixir, although it is much better than the old version, the side effects are much less than the old version. But the difficulty of refining this elixir has also risen several levels. He had failed dozens of times before and succeeded only once. Even if it is included, it was because he was not familiar with it before that he failed to refine it. Now, even if you refine it again, it is estimated that it will take at least 20 or 30 times to succeed once. Moreover, the amount of elixir produced by this epiphyllum pill is not particularly high. For other elixirs, there are more than a dozen pills in a furnace, 5 or 6 pills, or 7 or 8 pills. And this revised version of the epiphyllum, there are only a pitiful 3 pills in one batch. Alas, no more. These are all tears. After some time, Luo Changfeng called over the old housekeeper of the Luo family. Luo Dong, think about it carefully. This guy Luo Dong, I had been with him for a while. He grew up slowly under his own eyes. Sir, what are your instructions for calling me here? In the courtyard, beside the stone pavilion, the old housekeeper Luo Dong lowered his head slightly and bent his waist. There was a look of respect on his face. Later stage of bone refining. Luo Changfeng looked at Luo Dong beside him. He took a sip of the tea in his hand, and then whispered to him, do you want to go further? Do you want to break through the Zang-Refining process? As soon as Luo Changfeng said these words, this small courtyard suddenly fell into a boundless silence. Master, breaking through the internal refining can not only improve your cultivation, but you can even extend your life by 20 years. Who wouldn't want to do that if they could? Luo Dong bent over slightly, with a faint smile on his face, and a look of helplessness in his cloudy eyes. What if I can let you break through the internal refining process? But that's the prerequisite. You need to drain all your cultivation talents and potential. There will be no chance of breakthrough in cultivation in the future. Are you still willing? Luo Dong did not hesitate at all about Luo Changfeng's words. At this time, he was already decrepit, although it has not reached the level of half-stepping into the coffin board, but if nothing else happens, his cultivation in this life will always be stuck in the realm of bone refining, and, as time goes by, as his energy and blood continue to dry up, his cultivation level will continue to decline. Under such circumstances, what reason did he have for not agreeing? This is an epiphyllum. The grade is lower than the yellow level. After taking it, it will drain all your talents and potential. But at the same time, it will also bring you an unparalleled improvement in strength. To eat, or not to eat? It's all up to you. From the porcelain vase, an epiphyllum was poured out. Luo Changfeng threw the epiphyllum pill into the hands of the old housekeeper Luo Dong, and Luo Dong got the yellow-level low-grade epiphyllum pill. He stuffed the elixir into his mouth without hesitation. The elixir melts in your mouth, as the medicinal liquid gradually slid into Luo Dong's lower abdomen. An extremely powerful force suddenly burst out in Luo Dong's body. As time goes by, Luo Dong's strength continues to improve. Perfect bone refining, early stage of refining internal organs. Middle stage of refining internal organs, until the cultivation of the old guy in front of him improved to the middle stage of Zang-Refining. The aura that was constantly rising crazily slowly calmed down. The powerful force in his body was gradually exhausted at this moment. Chapter 97. The idea of creating a mysterious organization. The ancestor of the Ding family comes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Middle stage of Zang-Refining. This is really beyond my expectation. I originally thought it would be good to be able to break through the Zang-Refining process. I didn't expect that this would lead directly to the middle stage of Zang-Refining. Luo Changfeng looked at Luo Dong in front of him, and he couldn't help but think about it in his heart. As time flows, Luo Dong sat cross-legged for about half an hour, then he stood up silently. He bowed deeply to Luo Changfeng. My kindness is hard to repay in this life. Okay. Luo Changfeng waved his hand casually, and then ignored the old guy Luo Dong. He just held a cup of cold tea and drank it silently. Soon after, Luo Dong left, and after the old guy left the yard, Luo Changfeng took out the porcelain bottle containing the remaining 2 yellow-level low-grade epiphyllum pills from the storage bag. Epiphyllum elixir is just like the epiphyllum. If you remove it, it will fail, and flowers will bloom in an instant. Of course, this sentence is only used to describe the old version of epiphyllum. It does not apply to the new version of epiphyllum. It stands to reason that the higher the cultivation talent, the higher the potential, and the more terrifying it will be to improve the cultivation level. That old guy Luo Dong is in his old age. After taking this yellow-level low-grade epiphyllum pill, you can be directly promoted from the late stage of bone refining to the middle stage of organ refining. Then if it is given to people with stronger cultivation talents, wouldn't that mean it took off directly? When Luo Changfeng thought of this, another idea gradually emerged in his mind, an idea to create a strong organization that belongs only to one person. Anyway, after having this epiphyllum pill, he wanted to create a monk in the realm of bone refining and even organ refining. It's just a matter of time, and if he really created such a mysterious force hidden in the dark, that's really cool. Of course, since this plan is a bit cumbersome, it's a bit difficult to execute. Therefore, the implementation date of this plan has to be pushed back a little. Leave these 2 yellow-level low-grade epiphyllum pills to the Wandan Sect for sale. After all, this is a rather special elixir. The price should be higher than the ordinary yellow-level low-grade elixir, right? Luo Changfeng thought this in his heart. After that, he put away the white porcelain bottle in his hand. He put it back into the storage bag on his waist. To be honest, after having the storage bag, it is much easier to deal with many things. For example, those white porcelain bottles containing elixirs. When there was no place to put it before, he could only place it under the stone pavilion and on the stone table, but now, he can directly put the porcelain bottle into the storage bag. In this way, it will be much more convenient. There is just one problem that is quite uncomfortable. The area of this storage bag is only 3 cubic meters, and the stability of the storage bag space can only be maintained for 1 year. In other words, the shelf life of this storage bag is only 1 year. It's not certain whether this storage bag will still be usable after a year. Time flies by like a white horse. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. Huaishui County, outside Dongtu Town. At this time, Luo Qingshan was commanding his army to continuously launch fierce attacks on Dongtu Town, and in Dongtu Town, above the city wall, the troops and family members were trying their best to defend. However, no matter how those people in Dongtu Town defended themselves, their disadvantages are being expanded bit by bit. It should be almost done, right? After a fierce attack for several days, the people in Dongtu Town should be unable to hold on any longer. The rear area of the army, Luo Qingshan murmured in a low voice while looking at the city in front of him that had blocked his footsteps for several days. Brother Tang. How many days do you think this Dongtu Town can last? Suddenly, Luo Qingshan seemed to have thought of something. He turned his head silently and asked in a low voice to Tang Jian, the big fool next to him who was wearing a Taoist robe and holding a white feather fan. In less than 3 days, Dongtu Town will fall. Tang Jian whispered while waving the white feather fan in his hand. It seems that he is very confident in his judgment. However, what made Tang Jian feel a little confused was that, for some reason, the sky above Dongtu Town was filled with bursts of black aura. At this time, a little bit of life appeared again. Is it possible that the situation has changed? Tang Jian looked at the rich black aura and the faint signs of life above Dongtu Town. After just a moment, he shook his head. He seemed to be a little worried. Although, in the sky above Dongtu Town, among the rich black air, there are faint bursts of vitality, but having vitality and being able to control this glimmer of vitality are two different things. Moreover, even those people in Dongtu Town have controlled this glimmer of vitality. Judging from the extremely rich black aura above Dongtu Town, the fall of Dongtu Town has become an inevitable event. A blink of an eye. It was early morning the next day. Dongtu Town, above the city wall. Ding Fan is the current head of the Ding family. At this time, he was standing silently on the city wall with a gloomy face. He seemed to have underestimated the strength of the Qingshan family. He did not feel sorry for the loss of soldiers. Soldiers are a species that can have as much food as they want as long as they have food in their hands, but within the family, members of the clan who had a certain level of cultivation fell. This made Ding Fan feel painful in his heart. Even, in this short period of time, the Ding family where he belongs has already lost several family members with outstanding talents. This made Ding Fan's mood plummet a bit in the past few days. Almost every day, he had a gloomy face. His whole body exuded the aura of keeping strangers away. Even Feng Xuanhuan, the current head of the Feng family, did not dare to speak to Ding Fan in a sinister tone these days. It seemed as if he was afraid that Ding Fan would suddenly become ill and do something to his Feng family. In a blink of an eye, it was late at night. Dongtu Town, the land of the Ding family. At this time, Ding Fan was holding a piece of battle damage information and looking at it silently with a gloomy face. Just one day, several members of his Ding family lost their lives. Well, after being silent for a long time, Ding Fan finally couldn't hold it back any longer and sighed helplessly. As time goes by, the situation gets worse. If this continues, sooner or later, all the elite members of the clan will be lost. Maybe we can only ask our ancestors to take action. With this thought in his mind, Ding Fan stood up silently, and then walked towards a mysterious courtyard in the deepest part of the Ding family. The next day, early in the morning, when the sky is not completely bright yet, countless people are still sleeping, the army belonging to the Luo family in Qingshan Town once again launched a crazy attack on Dongtu Town. Regarding the Luo family's attack, the soldiers in Dongtu Town on the city wall, and the children of those families, he is trying his best to defend. It's just that no matter how hard those people try, the effect doesn't seem to be very good. Master, in the past few days, the elite members of the clan have lost nearly 1/3 of their number. If this continues, even though this war was barely won, our Feng family will still face a situation of sluggishness. On top of the city wall of Dongtu Town, beside Feng Xuanhuan, an elder from the Feng family couldn't help but say with a sad face, "Who wants to see such a situation? But besides this, do our Feng family have any other options? Feng Xingwen looked at Ding Fan, the current head of the Ding family. In the distance, he couldn't help but sigh slightly. From the beginning, the person who forced him to bow his head was the ancestor of the Ding family in the Zang-Refining Realm. The reason why the Ding family was able to become the strongest family among the many family forces in the 5 towns was that it had the qualifications to command other families. The big reason is also because of the ancestor of the Ding family who is in the Zang-Refining Realm. Before, the situation was still under control. It's okay that the ancestor of the Ding family didn't show up. Now, the situation has reached such a critical moment. It's time for the ancestor of the Ding family to come out, right? Dongtu Town, above the city wall, just when Feng Xingwen wanted to say something to the elder beside him, suddenly, his eyes were deeply attracted by a figure. He looked at the man in front of him, who was wearing a black and white robe and had long gray hair. The figure is slightly stooped and seems a bit unremarkable. There was even a faint aura of decay permeating his body, but it happened to be such an old man. As soon as it appeared, it attracted the attention of countless people. The atmosphere at the scene gradually became quieter with the appearance of the old man. Everyone lowered their heads slightly and closed their mouths. It seemed that he was afraid of attracting the old man's attention. Ancestor. Ding Fan noticed the ancestor beside him. Then, he silently took a step back. He bent his waist slightly, lowered his head. His face was filled with respect. Can't hold on anymore. The old man looked at the Luo family army that was still attacking the city, and then at those around him who were struggling to resist. However, it didn't seem to have much effect on the soldiers and other family members. Regarding this, as the ancestor of the Ding family, he has the cultivation level of the early stage of Zang refining. Even Ding Qianxiu, who is only one step away from the middle stage of Zang refining, his slightly cloudy eyes couldn't help but flash a look of disappointment. Have you fallen into this situation in just a few days? It even got to the point where I had to take action. As he spoke, the old man couldn't help but sigh again. Then, put your hands behind your back, silently looking towards the Luo family's army. What can be felt from the Luo family's army is the extremely strong murderous aura, and the uniform movements of the Luo family's army, extremely strong discipline and extremely strong willpower. From this point of view, the rise of the Luo family in Qingshan town does not seem to be an accidental event. At least, the Luo family was much better than the Ding family. Oh, just when Ding Qianxiu wanted to say something to Ding Fan behind him, suddenly, a Luo family general who was in the late stage of bone refining appeared. He rushed straight towards the direction of Ding Qianxiu. Ancestor, be careful. Ding Fan saw the Luo family general in the late stage of bone refining in front of him, and he couldn't help but give a reminder. Just, for this, not only did the ancestor of my family not retreat, instead, he took a step forward. Later stage of bone refining. He's just in existence like a chicken or a dog, so what's there to be afraid of? Ding Qianxiu smiled slightly. After that, he stretched out his extremely skinny one. The right hand seems to have little power. He attacked the general of the Luo family who was in the late stage of bone refining in front of him. Welcome. The general of the Luo family shouted loudly, just when he wanted to move forward and try to kill the head of the Ding family. Ding Qianxiu's seemingly ordinary, extremely skinny right hand, suddenly, it was covered with a layer of terrifying energy and blood power. The speed of movement in the void also increased several times in an instant. Bang! A dull sound suddenly sounded. After everyone looked forward, everyone widened their eyes. The general of the Luo family, who was in the late stage of bone refining, had already fallen on this city wall. At its heart, there is a hole clearly exposed to the air. Dark red blood was slowly flowing on the city wall and around everyone's feet. The smell of blood gradually spread around everyone. The late stage of bone refining. That is the late stage of bone refining. This does not mean that there are no monks in the late stage of bone refining present. Everyone was just a little surprised that a monk who possesses the advanced stage of bone refining, in front of the ancestor of the Ding family who was in the early stage of Zang refining, he didn't even have the strength to fight back. In just an instant, the monk in the late stage of bone refining died on the spot. Moreover, no one at the scene could clearly see what the ancestor of the Ding family was doing. This was what shocked those at the scene the most. Is this the true strength of the Zang-Refining Realm? It's really scary. On top of the city wall, someone was looking at the back of Ding Qianxiu, the ancestor of the Ding family. After swallowing his saliva, he said this. I thought that the monks at the Zang-Refining Realm were just enhanced versions of the bone-refining perfection realm monks. Now it seems I was a little wrong. On the city wall, someone also whispered like this, even after Ding Qianxiu's move. Feng Xingwen, the current head of the Feng family, couldn't help but widen his eyes. There was a look of disbelief in his eyes. Huaishui County, this is just a small place. Under normal circumstances, the people with the highest cultivation level that people can see are the monks who have reached the perfection of bone refining. Feng Xingwen, although it is not perfect in bone refining, but at least his cultivation has reached the late stage of bone refining. The gap between the perfection of bone refining and the bone refining is not that big. Before, he had met the ancestor of the Ding family in the Ding family meeting hall. He originally thought that he had sufficiently overestimated the monks in the Zang-Refining Realm, but now it seems, the monks in the Zang-Refining Realm were many times more terrifying than he had imagined. Perhaps, surrendering to the Nading family is the most correct choice. After being silent for a long time, Feng Xingwen couldn't help but have such an idea in his mind. Qingshan Town, the ancestor of the Luo family, it only takes a few months to break through the Zang refining process. Now, it is in the early stage of refining the internal organs, and this ancestor of the Ding family has been through Zang refining for who knows how many years. In fact, it is only one step away from the middle stage of Zang refining. With such a comparison, isn't it clear which one is stronger and which one is weaker? You little guy invited me out. What do you want me to do? Dongtu Town, above the city wall, he was wearing a black and white robe. Ding Qianxiu, the ancestor of the Ding family with long gray hair, looked at Ding Fan beside him and asked in a hoarse voice. I hope our ancestors can take action to deal with the bone-refining realm monks from the Luo family. Ancestor doesn't need to worry about the rest. Ding Fan lowered his head slightly and said with a rather respectful expression. A monk above bone refining. Ding Qianxiu lowered his head slightly and thought for a moment. Soon, he disappeared on this city wall. Outside Dongtu Town, at this time, Ding Qianxiu was approaching the direction of the Luo family's military camp. It seemed like an attempt to behead the Luo family's army, and the coach Luo Yong is in the military camp. At this time, he stayed in the tent silently, while looking at the map in front of him carefully. He whispered to Tang Jian, the big fool next to him, after Dongtu Town is captured, the other 4 towns near Dongtu Town will naturally follow suit. Fall into the hands of my Luo family, and wait until all 5 towns are captured. My Luo family can connect this place together. He holds 7 small towns in his hands and controls a population of more than 3 million people. I think I should be qualified to have a chance with the Tang family, the Chen family, and the king of Huaishui. When Tang Jian heard this, he didn't say anything out loud as usual. Instead, he turned his head silently, looked outside the tent. As he watched, he couldn't help but frown slightly, because, from that direction, he saw an unusual aura approaching the military camp where he was at an extremely terrifying speed. It seems someone is coming. After a moment of silence, Tang Jian suddenly turned his head and whispered to Luo Yong beside him. Somebody is coming. Luo Yong frowned slightly and seemed to look at the empty space outside the tent. He seemed to not understand what Tang Jian meant. Is the bone refining complete? No, he seems to be a monk at the early stage of Zang refining. The more Tang Jian looked outside the tent, the heavier his expression became. For monks in the Zang refining realm, Luo Yong might not be afraid. After all, they are both refining the internal organs, so who is afraid of whom? However, Tang Jian is just a monk in the bone refining realm. What if I accidentally nudged him? Then wouldn't he be cool? A monk at the early stage of Zang refining. After Luo Yong heard this, he looked outside the tent again. However, this time his expression seemed not as relaxed as last time. In his perception it seems that there is a really special monk in the Zang refining realm who is constantly approaching here. What the hell, in this small Dongtu town? Is there really a way to refine the internal organs? Luo Yong frowned deeply, seeming extremely surprised by such a scene. Then what? You stay away first. Don't accidentally hurt you then. Luo Yong turned his head, as if he wanted to say this to Tang Jian, the big fool next to him. However, before he could say these words, that was Tang Jian who was originally beside him. At this moment, it had disappeared without a trace. Chapter 98. The ancestor of the Ding family fell and the Five Towns Alliance was destroyed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I wipe it. Tang Jian, the big liar, can you run so fast? Luo Yong looked at the deserted area, he couldn't help but smile and shook his head. Then, he reached out and touched his sleeve. Behind the thick stack of talismans, the emotions in his heart couldn't help but calm down a lot, refining the internal organs. Oh, it's just a matter of refining the internal organs, it's not like he hasn't killed before. Back then, didn't the Tang family's Zang-Refining man die from the superimposed damage of 300 lightning strike talismans? As long as you dare to do this Zang-Refining, he dared to knock it off. Then, they took down Dongtu Town and the 4 nearby towns in one go. Well, that's it. In the coach's camp, Luo Yong has already thought about everything that will happen next and arranged everything. Under the passage of time, finally, the mysterious monk in the Zang-Refining Realm came to this tent. Luo Yong took a step back slightly and looked forward with a serious expression. The person in front of me is an old man, wearing a black and white robe. He has long gray hair, his face was covered with wrinkles and markings, and his whole body exuded an aura of decay. It's like someone who is not far from death, but he is just such an old man. But Luo Yong felt a little like he was facing a formidable enemy. This person is not simple, this person's cultivation, this person's strength, and the feeling of oppression this person caused Luo Yong, it seemed to be even more powerful than the oppressive feeling brought to him by the refining Zang he encountered in the Tang family. Middle stage of Zang refining? No, it seems it's still in the early stages of refining the internal organs. But this old guy seems to be a little different from the ordinary monks in the early stage of Zang refining. Luo Yong narrowed his eyes slightly and thought silently in his heart. A monk at the early stage of Zang refining? The second refining viscera of the Luo family. In the tent, Ding Qianxiu stared at Luo Yong in front of him. He couldn't help but silently took 2 steps forward. This person's cultivation was indeed beyond his expectation. However, it is a pity. If this person is located here together with the ancestor of the Luo family, Ding Qianxiu might still be a little afraid, but now this person from the Luo family will no longer have a chance to survive. After a while, the two began a battle unique to monks in the realm of refining the internal organs. Some are obvious, though. Luo Yong fell into a disadvantage not long after. Whether it's speed, strength, or experience and judgment in combat, he is far inferior to the ancestor of the Ding family in front of him. Boys from the Luo family, this battle should be over. Outside the tent, Ding Qianxiu looked at Luo Yong, who looked a little embarrassed and his aura gradually became a little disordered. On his old face full of wrinkles and markings, he couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. I saw Ding Qianxiu silently raising his somewhat skinny right hand. The power of qi and blood in the body surged crazily towards the skinny right palm. Blood evil palm. Ding Qianxiu thought silently in his heart. After that, he approached Luo Yong in front of him at an extremely fast speed. The blood evil palm is a top-level palm technique. It is the most precious book in the Ding family library. The blood fiend palm not only possesses extremely powerful power, at the same time, once the blood evil palm touches an enemy, it will inject the evil spirit carrying blood poison into the enemy's body. Even those who are affected by the bloody palm will not die for the time being, and he escaped smoothly. In the future, he will also be tortured by the evil spirit of blood poison day and night, until he couldn't bear the erosion of the blood poisonous evil energy on himself, and fell completely. This old guy is really quite powerful in combat. I originally wanted to have a few more fights with this old guy. Improve my combat experience a little bit. But it seems that there is no chance. Luo Yong glanced at Ding Qianxiu's ferocious expression, and then looked at the bursts of red light that occasionally flashed on the palm of Ding Qianxiu's right hand. He couldn't help but sigh slightly. After that, he took out the 300 lightning charms from his sleeves. The energy and blood in his body circulated, activating 100 of the 300 lightning talismans. Boom. Boom. The moment the lightning strike talisman was activated, there was an extremely dark lightning beam in the void with a radius of about 3 meters. He immediately locked onto Ding Qianxiu in front of Luo Yong, and, at a speed that is difficult for the human eye to react to, Ding Qianxiu fell down towards the bottom. Bang! As the terrifying thunder and lightning fell, the earth could not help but tremble slightly. Luo Yong was under the dazzling lightning beam, He opened his eyes with some difficulty. I wanted to see if the old guy in front of me was turned into ashes under the terrifying lethality of the lightning strike talisman. A charred figure suddenly fled frantically into the distance. I wipe it. Can the combined damage of 100 lightning talismans still electrocute this old thing? Luo Yong looked at the ancestor of the Ding family who was not only moving away, but was about to disappear from his sight. He circulated the power of qi and blood in his body again. He poured it into the remaining 200 lightning talismans in his hand. As the remaining 200 lightning talismans were activated, a terrifying lightning beam with a radius of more than 6 meters appeared above Ding Qianqiu's head again. Until, the thunder and lightning beam brewed for a while, the lightning beam with a radius of about 6 meters fell again in the direction of Ding Qianqiu. Boom! The light beam fell, and the ground couldn't help but tremble slightly again, but this time, Ding Qianqiu didn't seem to be as lucky as last time. Under this lightning beam of 200 lightning strike talismans superimposed, Ding Qianqiu's body turned directly into fly ash, slowly dissipated into the void. I originally wanted to save some money. Unexpectedly, I ended up using all 300 lightning talismans. Luo Yong walked silently in the direction of Ding Qianqiu's death. However, when he arrived at the place where Ding Qianqiu died, however, he discovered that there was a burnt black and damaged ball lying quietly on the ground. What is this? This thing can actually maintain its own shape under the bombardment of 300 lightning talismans. It's better to take it back and show it to Patriarch Changfeng. After whispering in a low voice, Luo Yong returned to the military camp. What happened after that was much simpler. The ancestors of the Ding family are all dead, and it is time for the Luo family to reap the fruits of victory. Outside Dongtu Town, in a military camp, while Luo Yong was playing with the blackened ball in his hand, he was teasing in a low voice to the big liar Tang Jian who reappeared next to him. You ran very fast just now. I didn't even say anything and you just ran away. That when Tang Jian heard this, he silently waved the white feather fan in his hand, and said calmly, when the monks in the Zang-Refining Realm fight, the monks in the Bone-Refining Realm suffer. If I don't run away soon, wouldn't it mean that you would never see me again? Luo Yong nodded silently. Tang Jian was such a big liar, and what he said seemed to make some sense, although the early stage of organ refining is only one level higher than the perfection of bone refining. But in fact, the gap between organ refining and bone refining is quite big. Only monks who have truly reached the realm of internal refining can know, what is the distance between organ refining and bone refining. You said before that something was not right in Dongtu Town. What you meant by something wrong was probably the ancestor of the Ding family who was in the early stage of Zang refining, right? Tang Jian waved the white feather fan in his hand and whispered, that's probably the ancestor of the Ding family. Hey, that's right. Do you know what this round ball is? It can actually withstand the combined damage of 300 thunderstrike talismans made by Changfeng Patriarch. It's just incredible. Luo Yong took the ball in his hand to Tang Jian and shook it before he asked aloud. This thing. Tang Jian narrowed his eyes slightly. After thinking for a while, he gave an answer with a somewhat serious look. This thing seems to be a low-grade mortal spiritual weapon. It can probably withstand the perfection of the Zang refining state. A full blow, but I don't know where the ancestor of the Ding family got this thing. A spiritual weapon of low-grade mortal level. Hearing this, Luo Yong couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. If you put it that way, this thing is a treasure. Spiritual weapons are not something ordinary practitioners can play around with. Even today's Luo family doesn't even have a single spiritual weapon. Oh, no. If the yellow-level low-grade furnace cauldron in the hands of my ancestor was considered a spiritual weapon, the Luo family does have one in their hands. When you go back, show this thing to ancestor Changfeng. Thinking like this in my heart, Luo Yong then walked silently outside the tent. At this time, the war between the Luo family and Dongtu Town was still continuing. The overall situation is that the Luo family has an absolute advantage, while the Dongtu Town side is trying its best to resist. But, it looks like, if nothing else happens, it will take up to 3 days. Those people in Dongtu Town will not be able to bear it anymore. Over there in Dongtu Town, to put it nicely, it is the 5 Towns Alliance. To put it bluntly, they are just a bunch of rabble. Internally, they were forcibly bound together because of the terrifying cultivation level of the ancestors of the Ding family. It would be okay if the ancestor of the Ding family was still alive, but what if the ancestor of the Ding family died? This so-called Five Towns Alliance may completely collapse in an instant. This war has been going on for so long, and it's time for this war to end. Outside the military camp, after Luo Yong muttered to himself, he quickly approached in the direction of Dongtu Town. Now, the ancestor of the Ding family has died, the Five-Town Alliance of Dongtu Town no longer has any means to resist the Luo family, therefore, Luo Yong planned to go to the battlefield in person. He personally ended the Nading family and the so-called Five Towns Alliance. In the evening, the sun sets. The golden afterglow of the setting sun swayed over the land. At this time, in Dongtu Town, in the meeting hall of the Ding family, Luo Yong, the head coach of the Luo family's army, was sitting quietly on the main seat quite casually. In front of him, there were many family heads sitting. What can be seen is that the heads of the famous families in the five towns have their heads lowered. His face was full of panic, he didn't even dare to take a breath. Brother Tang, what do you think should be done with the people in the Five Towns Alliance? Is it just a punishment? Or should we clean them all and leave no one behind? In this meeting hall, everyone was silent for a long time. Luo Yong, who was sitting quietly on the main seat, suddenly turned his head. Next to him, Tang Jian, who was wearing a Taoist robe and holding a white feather fan in his hand, asked in a low voice. And as Luo Yong said these words, before Tang Jian said anything, there were about a third of the people in the hall, and their faces instantly became a little pale, the look of fear and uneasiness on his face. At this time, I couldn't help but win a little more. In the hall, some people were frightened and uneasy, and naturally many people had a look of ecstasy in their eyes. Opportunity, this is among those five towns. For those small and medium-sized forces, it is definitely an excellent opportunity. Once the large families in the Five Towns Alliance are purged and wiped out, there will be countless ownerless cakes in the five towns. If those small and medium-sized forces can seize this opportunity, why can't they worry about becoming a large family force, or the top family force among the five towns? Brother Luo, do you still need to consider this? The rise of the Luo family must be unstoppable. Anyone who dares to block the rise of the Luo family will inevitably die. Besides, we have killed so many members of the family forces in the Five Towns Alliance. Who knows if those families will bear grudges against our Luo family? Even if there are really some among them who are sincerely willing to surrender to our Luo family. But how high is this probability? So, instead of thinking so much, it would be easier to just cut it all. How good would it be to just strangle all the sources of hatred? Luo Yong laughed twice, nodded silently and said, Brother Tang's idea is exactly what I want, it is exactly what I want. After saying that, Luo Yong stood up. He walked silently out of the hall with Tang Jian beside him. Until the two were about to leave the hall, Luo Yong seemed to have remembered something, and then whispered to the family members who were not in the Five-Town Alliance in the hall, the next thing will be handled by the people in the five towns yourself. If you want to get something, you always have to pay a price. As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Yong disappeared from everyone's sight. In the hall, after Luo Yong left, those powerful family members raised their heads silently and looked at each other. What does Luo Yong mean? Everyone already knows it. The Luo family has already pronounced the death sentence on the people of the Five Towns Alliance. However, the Luo family didn't want to do it themselves. Therefore, we have to ask whether the family forces outside the Five Towns Alliance can satisfy the Luo family and whether they can board the big ship of the Luo family. It all depends on what they do next. Do it. In the hall, those outside the Five Towns Alliance shouted. The Five Towns Alliance and the two forces outside the Five Towns Alliance, they instantly struggled with each other. About half an hour later, the melee in the hall ended. Grown-ups. Outside the hall, there was a man with a dark complexion and a braised egg head. He is about 2 meters tall and has a rather strong build. The Zhang family advocated Huang, who was covered in blood and filled with the aura of a perfect state of bone refining. At this time, he silently walked behind Luo Yong. He lowered his head slightly. The Zhang family is one of the established family forces in Dongtu Town. Because the Zhang family has always been at odds with the Ding family, therefore, the Zhang family's power has been suppressed by the Nading family in Dongtu Town. It's over. Luo Yong glanced at Xuanhuan behind him, and he nodded with satisfaction. After that, he quietly left the Ding family, Qingshan Town, the land of the Luo family, in the courtyard where the ancestors of the Luo family lived. At this time, Luo Qingshan was staying silently beside a furnace, continuously refining his own improved new version of Epiphyllum Pill. Previously, because the new version of Epiphyllum was a new type of elixir, never seen on the market. Therefore, the price is not easy to determine, but as this new version of the Epiphyllum Pill passed through a series of price determinations by many elders from the Wandan Sect master, the new version of the Epiphyllum Pill was finally priced at 100 low-grade spiritual stones. Yes, you heard it right, it's 100 low-grade spiritual stones. Its price is about 20 times higher than the ordinary yellow-level low-grade elixir, and why, the new version of Epiphyllum has such a high price. The main reason is that this new version of Epiphyllum has fewer side effects. Instead of squeezing longevity, squeezing potential, and squeezing abilities in all aspects, it has directly become the current situation where it is just about squeezing potential. Moreover, the person with higher potential, the more powerful you can get. It is precisely because of this that as soon as this new version of Epiphyllum Pill was launched, it was instantly bought by practitioners. If we say that refining about 20 of them can be successful once, then, the cost of the new version of Epiphyllum Pill is about 40 to 50 low-grade spiritual stones. And if one furnace can produce 3, you can get a profit of more than 100 low-grade spiritual stones. If the new version of Epiphyllum Pill can produce more pills in one batch, the income one can earn will also skyrocket. It seems that the next step to refine this new version of the yellow-level low-grade Epiphyllum Pill is the password to wealth. Thinking silently in my heart, after that, Luo Qingshan opened the lid of the yellow-level low-grade furnace cauldron in front of him. After the lid was opened, a strong fragrance of red pepper rushed towards him. Yo, it actually worked. And this furnace produced 7 new versions of Epiphyllum Pills. 6 yellow-level low-grade ones, and 1 yellow-level medium-grade one. I'll wipe it, make money with blood, this wave. Luo Qingshan was quite excited and divided the 7 new versions of Epiphyllum Pills at the bottom of the furnace into 2 white porcelain bottles and put them in them. He waved his hand and dispersed the flames under the cauldron. After that, he used the power of qi and blood in his body, injected into the cooling charm attached to the side of the furnace. With the cooling charm activated, the temperature of the furnace gradually dropped. Luo Qingshan then manually turned off the effect of the cooling charm posted near the furnace. He waved his hand and lit the flame under the cauldron again. A new round of refining of a new version of the yellow-level low-grade Epiphyllum Pill has begun. The cooling charm attached to the side of the furnace. This is a new use of the cooling charm that Luo Qingshan has discovered recently. By directly attaching it to an object, you can quickly cool down. If the temperature drops to a certain level, you can also choose to turn off the cooling charm function. This directly saved Luo Qingshan a lot of waiting time. Chapter 99. The Luo family rises strongly, and the spiritual weapon Crimson Bell is obtained. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, early morning, after Luo Yong finished dealing with the affairs of the 5 towns, then he led his army back to the land of the Luo family. He didn't leave many troops behind in the 5 towns, the Ding family in Dongtu Town, and the 5 towns alliance. They were all forcibly crushed by the Luo family. How can the remaining family forces in those 5 towns dare to compete with the Luo family easily? In addition, Luo Yong also left such a nail to the Zhang family in Dongtu Town. Therefore, he does not need to worry too much about the situation in those 5 towns. Anyway, let Luo Ping handle the rest of the matter. Military administration. He handles military matters. Government affairs have nothing to do with him. Qingshan Town, the land of the Luo family. In a courtyard exuding ancient charm. Ancestor Qingshan, look at this thing. Beside the stone pavilion, Luo Yong took out a burnt black and damaged ball from his sleeve. He whispered to the ancestor in front of him. Oh. Isn't this a defensive spiritual weapon of the ordinary low-grade level? Where did this come from? Luo Qingshan, who has studied the art of refining weapons for a period of time, can naturally recognize what the things in front of him are. I got it from the ancestor of the Ding family who is in the Zang-Refining Realm. At the beginning, I originally thought about using the lightning strike talisman sparingly. So, only 100 of them have been activated. But who would have thought that the ancestor of the Ding family could withstand the superimposed damage of 100 lightning talismans and still want to continue running away in the distance? In desperation, I could only activate the remaining 200 lightning charms. The ancestor of the Ding family was directly blasted into slag. Luo Yong said with a somewhat helpless expression, "Lightning strike talisman, this is a good thing." As a result, another 300 were wasted on the ancestor of the Ding family. Luo Yong was really a little distressed. Ancestor of the Ding family, Luo Changfeng couldn't help but narrow his eyes slightly. He naturally knew how powerful the talisman he refined was. Under normal circumstances, 100 lightning talismans, it can kill or seriously injure a monk at the early stage of Zang-Refining, and in the case of the ancestor of the Ding family, he actually used 300 lightning strike talismans. It is conceivable that it must be this low-grade defensive spiritual weapon that has exerted its effect. I'll study this later. If nothing happens, please step back. Luo Changfeng took the damaged spiritual weapon in Luo Yong's hand. After that, he waved his hand to indicate that Luo Yong could leave. After Luo Yong left this small courtyard, Luo Changfeng then focused his attention on the damaged low-grade defensive spiritual weapon in his hand. I don't know if this thing can be repaired. How about giving it a try? About half an hour later, Luo Changfeng finally failed to repair the spiritual weapon. The main reason is still because of the flames. There is no spiritual fire, or animal fire. There's really no way to refine weapons. After shaking his head helplessly, Luo Changfeng continued to refine the elixir. This time, he did not continue to refine the Epiphyllum Pill. The progress of the previous 1,000 antidote pills is still short of the last 100 or so pills. Next, more efforts are needed. After Dongtu Town and 4 other towns were captured by the Luo family, the reputation of the Luo family in Qingshan Town, during this period, it started to skyrocket like crazy. Whether it's the Qin family, the Tang family, or the Huaishui Wang Fengwentai side, everyone gradually began to take the Luo family seriously. A monk in the Zang-Refining Realm belongs to the Luo family. The Luo family also has an army. The Luo family still has territory, even if the Tang family, Qin family, or Huaishui king are somewhat unwilling to admit the strength of the Luo family. But what I have to say is that the Luo family today, it seems that he is really qualified to compete with the 3 parties, Huaishui County, in the county town. In the mansion where the Huaishui king's Fengwen Tower is located, at this time, Feng Wentai, the king of Huaishui, was staying silently in a cool room, silently looking at the huge map in front of him. Drawn on the map are all the forces in Huaishui County, among them, the Tang family, the Qin family, and the force he belongs to, controls most of the territory in Huaishui County. The Luo family in Qingshan Town is located in a corner of Huaishui County, which is extremely inconspicuous, of course. This was just the Luo family before. Today's Luo family is a little different. Today, the Luo family already owns 7 towns. The number of armored elites in hand is already close to 100,000. If they are collected together, it is probably not a problem to get 200,000. The number of people under his command has reached more than 3 million, and, this is just a rough estimate, if calculated carefully, it may have exceeded more than 3 million and reached more than 4 million, even though Fengwentai was somewhat unwilling to admit the power of the Luo family. But the Luo family's comprehensive strength indeed has the qualifications to threaten his Fengwentai. So, was my previous decision wrong? Back in Qingshan Town, when the Luo family had not yet risen. Should I send troops to destroy them? Fengwentai squinted his eyes slightly, thinking silently in his heart while looking at the huge map in front of him, but soon, he shook his head. His decision was correct. Ignoring the Qingshan Town Luo family and constantly targeting the Tang family was not a wrong decision. The only thing wrong was that he didn't expect it. How could the Qingshan Luo family rise so rapidly? There was something he didn't expect. The Ding family and the so-called 5 towns alliance were so wasteful. Doesn't it mean that there is an ancestor in the Zang-Refining Realm hidden in the Ding family? But why was the Ding family completely wiped out by the Luo family so quickly? Could it be that the ancestor of the Luo family took action? No, that doesn't seem to be the case. If the ancestor of the Luo family took action, he would definitely be able to get the news, and since it was not the ancestor of the Luo family who took action, then, there is only one explanation left to explain the fall of the Ding family, that is, there is another Lian Zong in the Luo family. Moreover, the strength of this Zang-Refining monk is even greater than that of the ancestors of the Nading family. It seems that I have to re-evaluate the strength of the Luo family. And the rapid rise of the Luo family. It will also definitely change the three-legged situation in Huaishui County. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. Huaishui County, in Qingshan Town. At this time, it was on a quite busy street. There are countless small stalls and hawkers selling continuously. A large number of people, with a look of hope on their faces, kept coming and going in a hurry. Uncle Jiang, look at Qingshan Town. It seems a little different from other towns. The area of Qingshan Town is so huge. It can even be regarded as a county town. Qingshan Town, inner city, next to a stall selling candied haws, a girl with a skin color as good as snow, a small stature, and an extremely soft appearance. With a touch of curiosity, he kept looking around. Miss, it's almost time, we should go back. If you stay outside for too long, Master will be worried. The middle-aged man called Uncle Jiang followed the girl and whispered to her. Oh, it's okay. Let's play a little longer. I finally came out, how could I go back so quickly? Besides, aren't you still here, Uncle Jiang? What's there to worry about? Okay, it's settled. I'm going to play. After the girl said these words, she jumped and trotted towards other places. While running, I looked around. On that slightly childish little face, there was a hint of curiosity about everything. Shortly after, the girl walked into a restaurant. She seemed a little tired from playing and wanted to eat something. It is located outside this restaurant, not far away. One was dressed in luxurious robes and had a jade flute tied around his waist. He looks like a rather handsome young man. At this time, he was silently looking towards the restaurant where the girl was. The boy's name is Luo Yao. His identity is the second eldest son of the Luo family, the second son of Luoan. Before, it was because he didn't handle it well by accident. This resulted in someone coming to the door to cause trouble. His father is Luoan. He got very angry because of this incident and said that he would never give him any money again. If you want money, you have to follow your father Luoan to run the family business. At that time, Luo Yao was really on the verge of despair. Fortunately, his ancestor found him and chatted with him for a while, so, since then, he began to pick up girls according to orders. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just following the order. In Qingshan Town, among the Luo family, the ancestors' words are the imperial edict, and the ancestors' orders are the greatest. Besides, he doesn't pick up girls solely for himself, it was his contribution to the continuation of the family. A family wants to grow and develop. In addition to the clansmen working hard to practice, there also needs to be enough new generations of clansmen to appear, so that the family's potential can be continuously improved. And how can we increase the number of new generations of family members? That naturally depends on the continuous efforts of the tribesmen, and he, Luo Yao, is one of the representatives. Today, Luo Yao's initial plan was to go out for a walk, stop by and grab a bite to eat at one of those stalls you haven't been to in a while. The restaurant is good, though, but sometimes the delicacies served by small stalls and hawkers are not necessarily worse than those served in restaurants. However, there was something Luo Yao didn't expect. As he was walking, he unexpectedly spotted a girl who looked extremely soft and cute. At first glance, it seems to be his cup of tea, so, Luo Yao followed the girl for a while. He planned to take action. Of course, there are some dirty tricks that he doesn't bother to do, and he has never done them. Those wives and concubines who followed him were all willing, never had one. It was forced. The one who caused trouble before was an accident and he didn't handle it well. Otherwise, the previous events would not have happened. The next day, Qingshan Town, the land of the Luo family, in the courtyard where the ancestors of the Luo family lived. At this time, Luo Qingshan was sitting quietly under one of the stone pavilions, holding a cup of ice-cold tea in his hand. He kept drinking. In front of him, Fu Qiu, the current head of the Luo Shan Mansion branch of the Wandan Sect, placed a special crutch beside him. An old face is full of deep expectations. Brother Luo, how are you? Those 1,000 yellow-level low-grade detoxifying pills. Fu Qiu looked at Luo Qingshan in front of him and asked tentatively in a low voice. Brother Fu's request will naturally be fulfilled with all our strength. As Luo Qingshan spoke, He waved his hand and took out 100 white porcelain bottles from the storage bag on his waist. Each white porcelain bottle contains 10 yellow-grade low-grade detoxification pills. Part of the porcelain bottle is placed on the stone table, another part of the porcelain bottles are placed randomly on the ground. Well. Thank you, Brother Luo, for this. Fu Qiu was extremely excited as he put the porcelain bottles containing antidote pills into his storage bag, while his old face was covered with a smile like a chrysanthemum, and he kept talking excitedly. We have the detoxification pill, the yellow-level low-grade defensive spiritual weapon. Luo Qingshan narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Fu Qiu in front of him. Brother Luo, don't worry. The yellow-level low-grade defensive spiritual weapon will be delivered at this time tomorrow. Fu Qiu said with a smile. Luo Qingshan nodded silently, and then he took out 3 more white porcelain bottles. Each of these 3 white porcelain bottles contains 10 yellow-level low-grade Epiphyllum pills. As for the yellow-level mid-grade Epiphyllum elixir that was refined with incredible luck, Luo Qingshan has no intention of selling it. Brother Luo, these 3 porcelain bottles. Luo Qingshan silently glanced at the 3 porcelain vases on the stone table, and said in a low voice, the new version of the yellow-level low-grade Epiphyllum pills. 1 porcelain vase contains 10 pills. Are they all new versions of Epiphyllum? Fu Qiu looked at the 3 white porcelain bottles in front of him, and he couldn't help but feel a little surprised. It's not like he didn't know about the new version of Epiphyllum. After all, this was modified and refined by Brother Luo himself. The price of a yellow-grade low-grade Epiphyllum pill. It can reach a full 100 low-grade spiritual stones. It is about 20 times more expensive than ordinary yellow-level low-grade elixirs, but now, there are 30 new versions of yellow-level low-grade Epiphyllum pills in front of him. In other words, these 3 porcelain bottles are worth at least 3,000 low-grade spiritual stones, even if half of the income is taken away. Those are also 1,500 low-grade spiritual stones. If some costs were deducted, there would be at least 1,200 to 300 low-grade spiritual stones in profit. Brother Luo is probably going to make a lot of money this time. Of course, except that Brother Luo is making a lot of money. He branched into the Luoshan mansion and made a lot of money. After the performance of the Luoshan prefecture branch has improved, can the ranking be improved? Perhaps, wait until the settlement time comes after the year. His Luoshan mansion branch could still break into the top 5. I don't dare to think about the top 3, but there should be a chance of ranking in the top 5. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. In the early morning, when the sky is not completely bright yet, Fu Qiu, who is a branch of Luoshan mansion of Wandan Sect, went to the courtyard where Luo Qingshan was. Brother Luo, this is the reward given by the master of Wandan Sect. Yellow-level low-grade defensive spiritual weapon. Red bell. In the courtyard, Fu Qiu took out a small red clock about the size of a palm from his storage bag as he spoke. Is this a yellow-level low-grade defensive spiritual weapon? Seems pretty good. Luo Qingshan took the red clock in his hand and played with it a little, then, he poured the power of qi and blood from the perfection state of internal organs refining in his body into the red bell, and after the red bell was activated, the red bell was originally only about the size of a palm. In an instant, it expanded to a height of 3 meters. And, it hovered above Luo Qingshan's head. Beside him, there was a layer of red energy slowly filling the air. Hey, not bad, not bad. This low-grade yellow-grade red bell is really good. However, this crimson bell has no offensive ability, which is a bit of a pity. After Luo Qingshan took back the red bell, a low-grade yellow-level defensive spiritual weapon above his head, he couldn't help but sigh in a low voice. However, it would actually be nice to get a lower-grade yellow-level red bell. Spiritual weapons are somewhat similar to talismans, and they are also divided into 3 types. One is defensive, one is offensive, and one is auxiliary. Spiritual weapons with a single attribute will be cheaper. The price of spiritual weapons with dual attributes, such as offensive and defensive ones, will rise exponentially. If it has 3 attributes, offense plus defense plus auxiliary type, it is not impossible that the price is dozens of times higher than a spiritual weapon with a single attribute. Therefore, it would be nice to have a single attribute spiritual weapon. After chatting with Fu Qiu in front of him for some time, Fu Qiu left this small courtyard because there were many things to do in Luoshan Mansion's branch, and Luo Qingshan is located in the courtyard, under the stone pavilion. after drinking the cup of ice-cold tea in his hand, he left the stone pavilion and walked to the open space where the yellow-level low-grade alchemy furnace was placed. Next, it's time to work harder, refining some new versions of Epiphyllum Pills to sell, then, by the black crow flame from the Wandan Sect master. He has been coveting the beast fire that belongs exclusively to the Wandan Sect, the low-grade yellow-level black crow flame for a long time, and while Luo Qingshan continued to refine the new version of Epiphyllum Pill, Huaishui Town, inner city, near a sideshow stall, at this time, a boy and a girl were standing side by side silently. The young man was smiling and personable, the girl lowered her head slightly, seeming a little shy, and would secretly glance at the boy next to her from time to time. That's right, the young man is Luo Yao, and that girl's name is Jiang Xiaoya. Luo Yao actually knew all about Jiang Xiaoya's series of little moves, however, he refused to expose it. Sometimes, Luo Yao even feels guilty. A girl like this who is as pure as a blank slate and has been locked at home for a long time and has never seen much of the world is really easy to deceive. Oh, no, it should be said that it is too easy to fool. Luo Yao couldn't bear to continue to fool the girl next to him. Chapter 100 Breakthrough in Blood Training, Soaring in Strength. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the inner city of Huaishui Town, played with Jiang Xiaoya for some time, until the scorching sun in the sky slowly set, and the sky gradually darkened, the two of them separated reluctantly. Mississippi. There's something wrong with that boy. Doesn't look like a good person. As Luo Yao gradually moved away, the middle-aged man who had been hiding behind Jiang Xiaoya and silently guarding her suddenly appeared. Uncle Jiang, you are too sensitive. Jiang Xiaoya looked at the direction Luo Yao was leaving, and a smile appeared on her fair face. Brother Yao is not the kind of person you think. Brother Yao is pretty good. Takes good care of me. I think Brother Yao is a good person. Behind Jiang Xiaoya, the middle-aged man named Jiang Yan couldn't help but become a little anxious, but Jiang Yan wanted to continue saying something. However, he was directly interrupted by Jiang Xiaoya. Okay, Uncle Jiang. It's a little late today, let's go back to the restaurant and have a rest. Besides, aren't you still here? With you protecting me, what should I be afraid of? That while Jiang Xiaoya was perfunctory with Jiang Yan, she silently walked behind Jiang Yan and pushed Jiang Yan forward. Well, Jiang Yan looked at the young lady behind him and sighed helplessly. In the end, he couldn't say anything. I could only walk silently in the direction of the restaurant. The night wore on. In a blink of an eye, a new day has arrived. Huaishui County, in the Tang family's city, in the mansion where the head of the Tang family is located. At this time, Tang Huaiping, the current head of the Tang family, was sitting quietly on a specially made armchair. In his hand, he held a folder with important information about Huaishui County. He looked through the pages with a rather serious look on his face. The Luo family has risen strongly and captured 5 small towns in a row. The ancestor of the Ding family was in the early stage of Zang-Refining, but he fell into the hands of the Luo family. There seems to be a second internal organ refining person in the Luo family's land. Look at all the information in front of you. Tang Huaiping couldn't help but feel a little dizzy. Over at Huaishui King Xuanhuan Tower, the continuous attacks during this period have made him feel a little upset, but now, the Luo family of Huaishui Town is rising strongly. It made him feel that the Tang family's current situation seemed to be somewhat precarious. In Huaishui County, there are grain reserves among various forces. The Tang family does have the most. Even if the grain reserves of other family forces were all added up, they would still be less than 1/3 of the Tang families. But now, the big question is, there is food, but it is endlessly targeted. As for the Luo family in Huaishui Town, located in the corner of Huaishui County, taking advantage of the constant battle between the Tang family and Huaishui King Fengwentai, they secretly sent troops to directly capture 5 small towns and rise strongly. As a result, the situation in Huaishui County will change again. From the 3-legged power before, now I am afraid it will become a 4-legged power. I have a headache. It seems to be due to the strong rise of the Luo family, because the Luo family had the power to threaten King Fengwentai of Huaishui. The entire Huaishui County once again returned to its former peace. The Tang family and the King of Huai River had a truce. The King of Huai River withdrew his army and hoarded it on the border. The Tang family also hoarded troops on the border. It seemed that they were preparing for a sneak attack by King Huaishui, so, under such peaceful years, in the blink of an eye, another half-month passed. Qingshan Town, the land of the Luo family. In the courtyard where the head of the Luo family lives, as the current head of the Luo family, Luo Ping is sitting on the throne. He was holding a brochure with detailed information about his territory in his hands, and he was constantly flipping through it. After half a month of development, the population under his command has exceeded 5 million. The establishment of the outer city of Qingshan Town has increased a lot of progress. Dongtu Town, as well as the other 4 towns, are gradually completely controlled by the Luo family. The Zhang family in Dongtu Town advocated famine and sent several elite members of the clan to marry into the Luo family, completely binding them to the Luo family. In the outer city of Qingshan Town, the number of Buddhist believers is increasing at an extremely fast rate and needs to be solved as soon as possible. The water level in Huaishui County has dropped rapidly in half a month, and the gradual drying up of Huaishui County will become an established fact. Near the farmland, the number of deep wells has continued to increase within half a month, but the water output is not much. If the Huai River completely dries up, these deep wells can only last for 10 days and a half at most. In the past half-month, the number of locusts has continued to increase, and at this time, the prototype of a locust plague has gradually taken shape. Look at the information in front of you. Luo Ping couldn't help but sigh as he put down the fold in his hand. It's been a troubled time. It's been a really troubled time lately, even though the Luo family, the Chen family, the king of Huaishui, and the Tang family in Huaishui County are all powerful. The war between each other stopped. He still has countless problems that need to be dealt with. Among them, the first problem is the declining water level of Huaihe River, the reason why Huaishui County is better than other places. The main reason is that there is a Huai River near Huai River County. With the Huai River, there will be no shortage of water resources, but now, the water level of the Huai River has been dropping continuously, and there are already signs of drying up. This is a very troublesome matter for the 4 forces in Huaishui County. In addition to the drying up of the Huaihe River, the number and scale of locusts continues to increase. This is also a problem for Luo Ping. Is it possible that in the future, the food of our Luo family will only be controlled by the Luo family of Jiangnan Prefecture? That as Luo Ping thought about it, his face gradually became ugly. In terms of food, it is controlled by the Luo family of Jiangnan Prefecture. This is naturally something he doesn't want to see. If it's only for a short period of time, that's it, but if it lasts for a long time, food will be controlled by the Naluo family. This is definitely a hidden crisis for the development of his Luo family, and it might suddenly explode at some point. Many difficult problems have no solutions for the time being. Next, we can only take one step and watch one step. After whispering in a low voice, Luo Ping casually picked up another booklet on the table. He opened it and read through it carefully. Luo family land, in the courtyard where the ancestors of the Luo family lived. After half a month of non-stop adding points, and, after continuing to practice, the poor cultivation level improved. Finally, Luo Qingshan touched the bottleneck between the perfection of viscera refining and blood refining, and next, he only needs to break through this bottleneck. Then you can completely break through from the perfect state of visceral refining to the higher state of blood training. Open my cheat panel. In the courtyard, there is an open space. Luo Qingshan sat cross-legged and whispered in his heart, name, Luo Qingshan. Xuanhuan, 20 years plus. Cultivation, Zang-Refining Perfection plus, 4900/5000, Qi and blood, 2500, minus 150, PS, safe and usable Qi and blood is 100 points. Kung Fu, the best in the world, fiery tiger strength, comprehension, 100% plus, the low-level yellow level, wind shadow step, comprehension, 100% plus, the best in the world, bang fist, comprehension, 100% plus, the best in the world, blood evil palm, comprehension, 5%, occupation, alchemy, comprehension, 3% plus, talisman making, comprehension, 5% plus, weapon refining, comprehension, 1%. This is Luo Qingshan's golden finger panel today. After the continuous development of the family during this period, the total blood of the family has increased to 2500. there are a lot more than before. As for skills, since he had destroyed the Ding family before, Luo Qingshan did a little research on the Ding family's unique skill, the bloody palm. As a result, he found that this thing seemed interesting. It took a certain amount of time to study, however, since he did not use the blood points to add points to the blood demon palm. His understanding of the blood demon palm could only reach 5%. As for refining weapons, after getting started, he spent 50 points of chi and blood points to make a wave of Krypton gold. The level of comprehension has been increased from 0.01% to the current 1%. What he needs to do next is to add the 100 points of chi and blood that were naturally restored today to his own cultivation. Thinking of this, Luo Qingshan stretched out his skinny right hand. He clicked on the plus sign behind his cultivation base. Excuse me, do you want to spend 100 blood points to improve your cultivation? Yes. No. The familiar interface appeared in front of Luo Qingshan again. Without much hesitation, he directly clicked the yes button. 100 points of blood value are being deducted. Cultivation is improving. A cold voice sounded in his mind. And as a mysterious, gentle and extremely powerful force continued to emerge in his body, he successfully broke through the bottleneck in the early stage of blood training by refining the internal organs, and then began to relax. And as time passed, another full day and night passed. The bottleneck that had always troubled Luo Qingshan was finally broken. Since then, Luo Qingshan's cultivation has reached the early stage of blood training, which is beyond the perfection of viscera refining. His strength once again experienced a surge. Name, Luo Qingshan. Lifespan, 50 years plus. Cultivation, early stage of blood training plus, 0/10,000. Chi and blood, 2,500, minus 250, PS, safe and usable chi and blood is 0 points. Kung Fu, the best in the world. Fiery tiger strength, comprehension, 100% plus. The low-level yellow level, wind shadow step, comprehension, 100% plus. The best in the world. Booming fist, comprehension, 100% plus. The best in the world. Blood evil palm, comprehension, 5%. Occupation, alchemy, comprehension, 3% plus. Talisman making, comprehension, 5% plus. Weapon refining, comprehension, 1%. The gold finger panel in front of you, this is the panel after he improved his cultivation level. After the initial stage of blood training, if you want to continue to improve your cultivation level, you need to spend a full 10,000 chi and blood points. If calculated based on the natural recovery of 100 points of chi and blood value in one day, it would take more than 3 months. As for Xuanhuan, it was because he had broken through the blood training realm that he had gained another 30 years. After improving his cultivation level, his appearance has not changed much other than becoming more immortal. This made Luo Qingshan a little surprised. He originally thought that after his longevity increased, he would look younger or something. However, this is fine. After all, he is the ancestor of a family. If this is too young, what does it look like? Is this the power of the blood training realm? Luo family land. In a small courtyard, Luo Qingshan felt the powerful beating of his heart in his body and the extremely fast blood flow. After feeling the extremely surging power in his body, he couldn't help but stood up silently. He pinched his right fist. He punched the void ahead. Woo woo woo. After punching out, the void roared slightly. It seemed like he was crying because he couldn't bear his strength. Of course, Luo Qingshan knew this is just an illusion that he feels. How could the stability of the void be affected by a mere monk at the early stage of blood training? You know, on top of blood training, there are monks in the mortal realm, and above the mortal world, there are also immortal monks. Mortal realm monks play with chi and blood, the fairyland monks play with spiritual power. The gap between the two is so big that it is not an exaggeration to say that it is a difference between cloud and mud. But none of that matters. After breaking through the initial stage of blood training, I should be able to be called invincible in this mere Huaishui County. Even in the entire Luoshan mansion, I should be considered one of the people with the highest cultivation level. So, are we going to unify the entire Huaishui County next? Let the entire Huaishui County change their surname to Luo. After thinking about it for a while, Luo Qingshan silently shook his head. The higher his cultivation level, the more he can feel the importance of his own strength, the army and territory in the mortal world. No matter how many of these things there are, what's the use? Even if you have tens of millions of troops, hundreds of millions of troops, can you withstand the attack of a blood-training monk? Even when the Luo family in Huaishui County was fighting with each other, the army was completely lost, and only the last Bluestone town remained in the territory. But, so what? As long as Luo Qingshan is willing, as long as he goes to the Tang family, Chen family, and the territory of the Huaishui king, kill all the top leaders of the three parties, doesn't this Huaishui County belong to the Luo family again? There is a nuclear bomb-like existence like him sitting in the land of the Luo family. Who else dares to compete with the Luo family? Who dares to clamor with the Luo family? Besides, in the early stage of blood training, only Huaishui County is invincible. In the entire Luoshan mansion, and even in the Dafeng dynasty, there are monks in the realm of blood training, and even monks in the realm of transformation beyond blood training. It's just that most of the existence is in the stage of retreat and practice. Therefore, rather than encountering the top family forces in the Gale dynasty too early, it is better to just keep trying, wait until your cultivation reaches the level of transformation beyond blood training. Wouldn't it be better to wait until one's own cultivation is truly invincible to the Gale dynasty before coming out? As for the Luo family in Qingshan town, it all depends on the abilities of Luo Ping, Luo Yong, and the juniors themselves. If he relied on his own ability, he could really unify Huaishui County. Luo Qingshan wouldn't stop anything. If he fails, then he will clean up the mess a little bit, just keep the Luo family from perishing in this world. Of course, if someone from the Tang family, Chen family, or Huaishui king's side is ignorant and suddenly jumps out, Luo Qingshan didn't mind taking action and pinched those people to death one by one. The next day, early morning, it was just dawn, and pedestrians were coming and going in a hurry on the street. In the sky, the scorching sun has not yet risen, the temperature outside is still slightly cold. It is located in the inner city of Qingshan town, on a busy street outside the Luo family, Luo Yao, Jiang Xiaoye. The two of them were already walking side by side, and while walking, they would also talk and laugh. Perhaps Jiang Xiaoye herself hasn't noticed much yet, but as a veteran in love, Luo Yao, who has raised more than a dozen wives and concubines, has gradually discovered it. Jiang Xiaoye, who was as pure as a blank sheet of paper next to her, seemed to have gradually fallen in love with him. Originally, this was for Luo Yao. It should be a great thing, but for some reason, when he and Jiang Xiaoye were walking side by side, he always felt that there were waves of cold eyes behind him constantly scanning at him, and every time Luo Yao turned around, but no suspicious figure could be seen. This made Luo Yao feel a little confused for a moment. In fact, Jiang Xiaoye's words gradually became a little slow. Luo Yao, what are you thinking about? Why are you ignoring me? As Jiang Xiaoye spoke, she stretched out her white and tender hands like lotus roots and waved them in front of Luo Yao's eyes. Hey, someone in your family has told you that it is very rude to ignore others. Something about that? After hearing this, Luo Yao reacted. He smiled awkwardly, and then whispered, "It's not that I'm ignoring you, I just feel that I always feel a little chilly behind my back. It's like, there's always someone staring at me. But every time I turn my head. But I can't see anyone suspicious. Maybe I'm a little too sensitive." Jiang Xiaoye's expression gradually became a little unnatural. Is this like this? Yes, I have something to do. Let's meet again at noon. I'm leaving first. After Jiang Xiaoye waved her hand, she ran gradually towards the distance. Luo Yao looked at Jiang Xiaoye's figure and felt a little confused. Something happened suddenly. Then you ran away. Is something really wrong? Luo Yao was a little confused, but since we said we would meet at noon, we would meet again at noon. Qingshan town, the inner city, in a deserted alley, Jiang Xiaoye looked at the middle-aged man in front of her angrily. Miss, it's almost time. It's time for us to go back. If you don't go back, I will be worried. Jiang Yan lowered his head slightly and whispered to Jiang Xiaoye in front of him. Uncle Jiang, I told you that Brother Yao is not a bad person. So don't stare at him like that again. Jiang Xiaoye said with a somewhat unhappy expression. Miss, let's not worry about the so-called Luo Yao's intention to get close to you. Just because the master gave me the order, I must guard you. Jiang Yan lowered his head slightly and said firmly.